do you not see the difference of like one where you're saying I think people are masking their beliefs, but then this other group we actually know that they're masking their beliefs? There seems to be a bit of a difference when it comes to like what.
Why won't you let Miyo? I haven't talked to Miyo in like weeks too.
Because I don't want to get trapped into a different conversation than the one that I'm currently trying to have. Is like, well, no, we can also look at like.
Hold on, I gotta get my charger.
Yeah, go ahead.
My computer. Okay, hold on a second.
Go ahead.
So why are you scared, bro?
I'm not scared. I'm talking to somebody else.
Sure about that one?
Yeah.
Just checking.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I got Sam Cedared with Miyo. I was Sam Cedering you. What are you? Are you Steven Crowdering now?
The noticeability of homosexual.
Yeah, I think the rhetoric actually is like exactly what it is. If you don't know somebody's views if they're not saying them.
Well, right. That's why.
Okay, yeah, I think this is the part. Okay. So he asks you. You were criticizing liberals for not saying the things that they believe, right?
Yeah.
And then he says, but do you hold the same criticisms for Nazis or for Groypers who do the same thing? And you said, I never said I agree with Nazi or with Groypers. They hold a lot of horrible beliefs that I don't agree with.
Yeah.
Right. So when I said that you didn't actually answer him, his question wasn't, do you agree with them? His question was, do you have the same criticism of them for masking their beliefs and saying stuff other than what they actually believe?
Okay.
So do you have the same?
I think that they are way more mask off though.
The Groypers?
The Groypers, yeah.
Because they say things that are like that people criticize them for?
That most people wouldn't say. They say things that most people would not say. I bet a lot of conservatives even think a lot of these things and they don't say it.
Well, that might be true, but like
Oh, good. Christian's in the chat. Like he was literally, this guy claims he's a big professional debater and he's sitting there stroking his ego like so hard watching this. It was the creepiest thing I've ever seen in my life.
All right, don't worry about the chat.
Why not?
Because I want to ask you questions.
Okay.
Okay, so like with Groypers, they have like a bunch of criticisms of like Jews that they don't actually say out loud, right? They say like a bunch of other things and talk around their actual criticisms of Jews.
You have a Groyper in chat. You know, he can answer some of these questions too.
I've already asked him these questions. He proved me to be right the entire time, and then everybody clipped it and posted it all over Twitter. So like that already happened. So yeah, like do you have the like, because when it comes to their actual beliefs, yes, they will say things that are like controversial, but they don't say their actual beliefs around these things. So like when it comes to like a group of Jews that are trying to like take down the white people or make it to where they're like the white race is bred out, or to where like there's so many immigrants that come in to where the white people become the minority, like they don't actually say those things outright. They say things like, oh, there's a group of elites that want to let all of the immigrants in, right?
But don't a lot of leftists say that? Oh, don't a lot of leftists say there's a lot of elites that control the media and control all kinds of things?
Yeah, do you think they're talking about the Jews when they say that?
I don't know. Maybe they are.
I don't know either, but if I was like...
Mask off, mask on.
True, but okay. This is what happens a lot of times when I talk to you. Is like you'll say something as though it's your belief, but then when I ask you about it, then eventually you're just like, well, that's just my opinion. Like,
well, most things are just an opinion. I can't, like, I mean, there's no way to actually prove what I'm saying on that, so it would have to be an opinion.
sure, but like, do you not come to opinions based on like facts? Do you just like kind of come up with them off the top of your head?
Well,
Or, like,
the things that I've been talking about that you get upset when I say that they're my opinion, it's just like human behavior. So it's no real way for me to sit there and like prove human behavior, like what people are actually thinking. I'm just kind of going off of what I see people do.
sure. So like, I can't prove that Mio actually doesn't like the Jews and that he believes all of these things, right? Or at least I couldn't before. I can now, but like before, I couldn't prove that he actually believes those things. But I was able to show a lot of evidence to show the inferences that he makes to say that like it's the Jews that are doing these things. And I could connect a bunch of different dots to show that like this is what he's actually saying. He just won't say it outright. But when you say it, you're saying, well, that's just what I think. There aren't dots to connect. There aren't inferences. It's just something that I made up in my head.
Okay.
So do you not see the difference of like one where you're saying, I think people are masking their beliefs, but then this other group, we actually know that they're masking their beliefs. We don't just think it, like they've proven it time and time again.
There's actually been like studies that 70% of people won't say things that they think online because they're worried about what people will say and the reaction that they'll get. So yeah, there's like there is evidence that like a lot of people mask their views.
Sure. So like if I think like Betty has like a really dumb face, I'm not going to post it online, or I'm not going to post it on Facebook and let everybody know that Betty has a dumb face. Like that's a view that I'm going to hold to myself because I don't want to be a jerk and I don't want everybody else to get mad at me for being a jerk to Betty, right?
Okay.
That is the type of view that I'm going to mask.
The thing is with liberals are way more judgmental. Liberals are like holding people to this like incredibly high standard.
Sure.
Like, so when it's understandable that lefties are not going to be very upfront with some of their beliefs because of the reaction that they know will come from lefties. So I can't sit there and say, yeah, I know this is for sure true, but if you can't follow that logic, it's pretty obvious that is going to be the case.
I agree with that, so, for sure. So let's say, so when it comes to like a Groyper and something that they would say about the Jews or about black people or about Mexicans, like I think that them actually voicing these views would actually have damage in the real world, right? And so that's why somebody like Twitter or somebody like Twitch, I'm okay with them like putting some sort of censorship on them to keep them from saying those things and like actually spreading their ideology. So what is it that like liberals say that would actually have damage in the real world?
Come on too. Let's bring me on.
I can't.
We can go through StreamYard. I'm not going to stream it, but as a way to.
I don't want to get that far into it. I was more like wondering from just from listening to this
like,
what your
you
views
keep
were.
Asking me. I think like a lot of this, you keep asking me about Groypers, and
I'm only asking about your views on them. No, I'm not asking what they actually do. I'm asking like what your views on them are. So like because right now I'm asking you about liberals. So like when it comes to liberals, like I explained, like, you know, when it comes to Groypers or people like that, they have views that I think would actually have harm in the real world. And that's why I'm okay with like them being censored and they won't say those things. They keep their mask on because they're afraid of being censored. What is it that you think liberals would say if they had their mask off that would actually be damaging?
Probably some of the stuff that comes to maybe some kind of racial things or stereotypes or just little things, maybe some stuff with the Me Too that they probably think is stupid and that they won't say. I mean, there's a lot of little things that the woke crowd goes way too far, and I know a lot of lefties probably know that, and they just have to kind of suck it up and go with it because that's just the way it's heading, and they don't want to be taken out by the mob.
And do you think that they hold those views because you hold those views and you think those views are so true that everybody should have them?
No, I'm not saying that all the views that I have is something that everybody else has. I'm saying that there's hints of things on every level that people are going to have, and they just likely won't say it.
Right, but everything that you mentioned were things that I've specifically heard you voice. Like, those are your views.
Well, I might have some of those views, but I've actually voiced those views, so it's not like I'm sitting there hiding them. And I've taken a lot of heat for a lot of them.
I guess
so. I'm kind of like an example of why people like probably would not be too open about some of their views.
So I guess my issue there is like lots of these people then come and debate you on it though, and I feel like people are gonna have like an insanely hard time.
I don't debate people ever.
No, well, you go on to shows like Sansol's, like mine, like other, like your own, where you talk to people and they argue that you're wrong and you argue that you're right. I would call that a debate. I don't know what you want to call it, but that's normally what I would call it, is you debating them on those certain issues. So like Rose Risk debating you on immigration, or me talking to you about.
So what happens is I get trapped into these debates. I'm not like trying to go out and debate people. I somehow end up getting trapped into these things.
Sure. So my point is, they are debating you, and when they debate you, like they're debating you on their own beliefs. And I think that if they like had this mask where they actually agreed with you, they probably wouldn't debate you on it. And if they did, they would do a really crappy job.
So I'm not saying that they have to hold the exact same views that I have. I'm saying that even those people, no matter how woke they are, I guarantee you there are views that they have that they are not telling you.
Yeah. Like
I guarantee there are views you have that you don't say.
Yeah, like I don't tell Betty that she's ugly. Like,
Can you stop with the Betty?
Like, why don't you want to talk about Betty? What are you trying to hide about Betty?
I hate Betty.
You hate Betty? Oh my goodness.
Mask off.
Oh my goodness. Mask off. Wow.
Mask
off. But yeah, like there seems to be a bit of a difference when it comes to like what.
Why won't you let Miyo? I haven't talked to Miyo in like weeks too.
Why?
Because he's been busy with school.
Because
it's very sad.
I don't want to get trapped into a different conversation than the one that I'm currently trying to have, right? Like, I'm happy to talk.
And after that, can he come on?
I've invited Miyo on numerous times to have conversations, so I'm okay with talking to Miyo. I just, like, right now, there's something that I'm trying to focus on that I don't want to get.
No, because you want me to talk, but you're trying to get me to talk about Groypers and Wignats.
No, I know. I'm trying to get you to talk about your
views. What the conversation. Yeah, but that's exactly what the conversation was, and I feel like he can probably do a better job at telling you what Groypers believe, regardless of what I think.
But I didn't ask what Groypers believe.
Yes, well, yeah, you are.
No, I'm not. I was asking.
That's where this is going.
No, it's not.
Okay, then get to it.
The main point is that, like, all right, this is where I don't know what Christian was doing. When it comes to Groypers, do you think that there are things that they actually have, because I know you disagree with them, but do you think they have views that are actually harmful to the world around them? Like, if everybody started taking on these beliefs, do you think that they would actually be harmful?
No, not, well, I mean, I'm sure there are some, but the thing is that I don't think that they are doing things in ways that would be harmful. I think that they might have their own self-interests in mind, but I think a lot of people have that.
Yeah, sure. But, like, I guess like when it comes to like Jewish people and the way that like we think about what it is that they're trying to do you think that lots of people would be like a lot more hateful towards Jewish people if everybody thought that there was some cabal that was trying to get rid of the white race?
Possibly.
Like that's so when I think about like bringing Mio on,
What would you say if that was actually something that was happening though too?
Say that again.
What would you do if something like that was actually happening though?
I don't think there's anything I could do.
Well, I'm just saying, like, would they then deserve that?
Oh, you're saying if they actually were doing that?
Yeah.
I think that there would be ways of dealing with it. But I say this all the time that like there are small truths to what it is that they're saying and that they build off of those truths, and I stay just like at the very beginning truth. And I'm willing to say those things, and I think lots of leftists especially, they will deny it from beginning to end because they don't even want to give a little bit to the groypers, right? And so like I see that and I know that they do that, and I agree with you there. Like they just ignore things that are real. So like saying like, well, what if white people become a minority? Like they're all like, oh no, nobody should ever even think about that. That doesn't even matter. Who cares? Like, well, no, like we should think about that like we should care, we should have that conversation, like that's a thing. But but then to say like, well, so now like we need to stop white people from becoming a minority, that's where like there's an actual problem, right?
Well, okay, but like it's not like even if they are trying to stop white people from becoming a minority, they're not doing it in ways that would actually be harming other people. They're not like fighting for some kind of like genocide or whatever it is that you guys think. So if they're just trying to have some kind of self-preservation, I'm not sure you can really say that it's like harmful. I think everybody has that in mind.
Yeah, I agree. But when we look at like people with their types of beliefs, right? And I know you don't like me saying this, but like the Nazis, like when those people were able to take power, really horrible things ended up happening to the Jews, right? And so
right, but like okay, but yeah, okay, and I know that is obviously a way to constantly go back on, because you can always use the whole genocidal thing. But when people are, you can have certain views and not be a genocidal maniac.
I agree. And that's why I kept telling you, like, I don't think that that's any of the, like, a Groyper's intent or, like, a neo-Nazi's intent. But I think that that's what ends up happening every time anyways, because you end up building this fear against a group of people to where once everybody's afraid, like, there's just, there's no stopping what's already, like the snowball that's already rolling. There's nothing you can do about it at that point. And so that's why people take this very hard line. Don't even allow it in your circles. Don't allow it on your platform. Don't allow it anywhere, because if we all just start to give a little,
those views are still going to be there though.
I don't disagree, and I'm okay with people platforming it responsibly as long as somebody's there to push back and like debate them, like Destiny. Like I think that was a good idea, and like I'm okay with Mio going and debating, and like I said, I'm happy to have conversations with Mio as well. But I think that there are like, I think that there are responsible ways of doing that, and I don't think me bringing him on right now would actually be a responsible way of doing that.
Why? We can bring somebody else on too.
I don't. Oh, I do have other things that I also had to get to, but I did want to start because you popped in, and Christian was going over this earlier. I did want to bring you on and talk
Christian
to you.
Christian was like working himself off in the creepiest way ever. It was like gross.
He was happy.
It was so gross. Like he was like having this like evil laugh. It was so. Ugh.
He got an attaboy from everybody. This is his moment.
Yeah, because everybody hates me, so of course he's gonna get an attaboy. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. You remember early on when all this started happening, and I told you, I was like, you could just give in and do it, and you said, but I don't want to. And I said, okay, just understand, Like, there are consequences that come with that.
Even into
And you
what?
said, actually, like, monitoring your Discord more and just, like, telling the people,
I
like, sorry, you're
don't.
not.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. I do that though.
But you
That
also
never
said that
didn't
you.
stop people from getting pissed at me.
No, you also said that you didn't have a problem with people JQing.
I don't.
I know, that's what we're talking about. To say that you monitor it is one thing. To say that you actually, like, monitored the
I
things that
monitor.
people were
We
asking you to
stopped the
monitor.
slurs and stuff. And we stopped. Wait, what's happening with this? What? Are you still there?
Yeah, I didn't say anything. Sorry.
No.
I thought you were talking to somebody else.
No. Well, wait a minute. This motherfucker. I've been crying about this all day. I haven't talked about it at all. Everybody's freaking telling me about this. I've just been coming into these circles. I've got a message saying that you were on stream talking about it. I saw that. I haven't talked about it one time. This guy is really weird. He's got a weird obsession with me.
Super weird dude. I think he's in love with you.
Okay, just stop.
Okay. But yeah, like, if they're like it, you can see that, like, certain beliefs, even like tankies, right? Like, there are tankies out there, far left people, who have really dangerous beliefs that, like, if we continue to platform their beliefs and let it spread, there are really dangerous things that come from that. And we can see that over and over throughout history. And I it's not only the Nazis that I can point to. Like, I can point to the founding of America. I can point to what's happening right now to the Uyghurs. Like, I can point to all sorts of.
Why do people in your chat keep saying I'm talking about this guy? I haven't talked about him at all. I'm responding to things because he's been talking about it.
Wow.
What is wrong with these
Are
people?
you really talking about him again, Brittany? My goodness. You are obsessed. I'm talking about Uyghurs right now, and you can't stop talking about Christians.
I don't even know what a Uyghur is. I don't. What's a Uyghur?
It's a type of Muslim. They're in China. There's lots of different types of Muslims. So there's, like, the Middle Eastern Muslims that we think of. There's Black Muslims, especially in America, like Malcolm X types. There's Asian Muslims.
Is that why they keep talking about the Uyghur genocide?
Yes, the Uyghur genocide is what I was referencing, to say that, like, there are lots of times that, like, authoritarians and, like, more fascist groups are able to take over and, like, push their agendas on others. And when they're afraid of a certain group, or they have a high dislike of a certain group, that group, when the authoritarian people get in power, that group tends to do very poorly in those situations.
Okay.
So, like, it's not normally just that we're pointing to, like, one thing, which is the Nazis. That's just, like, the most direct or the most analogous example. But there's lots of examples that we can point to, or we can say, like, those types of views spread, and then we can see what tends to happen afterwards.
Okay.
Are you listen, the other day, I know you told me that you didn't brigade my chat last week, but then I went and checked, and it came from your Discord.
Wait, what?
You can go and look at your analytics and see where most of the flow of people are coming from. So, like,
I have no idea what you're talking about. When brigade your chat about what?
you remember the other day, like, I stopped and I was like, all right, hold on, why am I getting brigaded again? And everybody's like, oh, stop crying about getting brigaded. And I was like, I'm not crying, I'm literally just asking why I'm getting brigaded. Like,
Well, I swear to God, I had nothing to do with that one. I've admitted when I've actually, like, straight said when we were ratioing you. So
okay. I just, like, I want you to understand that, like, when people have these criticisms, it's because there is a legitimate fear of something happening that they're talking about, and it's not some hatred for you, or some obsession with you, or some, like, crazy people just trying to do crazy things. There are precedents that have been set that they can see throughout history and say like, oh wow, this could happen again, so we all do our best to work together to keep this from happening.
Hmm. Hold on a second. Okay,
You are
sorry.
angry typing.
Everybody always says that. I'm just fast typing, so I'm not leaving you hanging too long. Okay, cool. They're scared of something.
That was it, really. Like the fact that people have these criticisms. I know that lots of them suck at giving them, and they're pains in the butts when they start ad homing and talking about how you're stupid and how like, you know, you don't know anything and all of that stuff, and it's a huge pain in the butt. And I know they're horrible at giving the criticisms, but that doesn't mean that their criticisms are actually incorrect. And I say the same thing about you sometimes when you bring up criticisms, but you're a real jerk about it. I can go back to them and say like, well, actually she has like legitimate criticisms of you guys. She's just a real jerk while she's telling you. But like, see through the jerkiness, and I'm trying to give you some X-ray vision to see through the jerkiness and see that like the criticisms are legitimate, and there are things with platforming that are a problem.
Okay. So, but I don't think I'm platforming irresponsibly.
But like we just talked about, like harms that could come from these views if they actually spread and became a majority, right?
Okay, but what if some of these things, again, what if some of these views are true?
Well, I would need you to tell me that you believe that these views are true in order for me to have that conversation. Like,
well, like with white people becoming a minority.
Yeah, so like there is a, I guess, what is the exact fear of them becoming a minority that like,
What usually happens to people that are minorities?
so like in America, like there's like oppression of minorities in America, and you're saying that like next up it would be the white people who are now oppressed in America, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So normally like the people who are in America and who are being oppressed are because of things that happened over a long period of time. So like black people were slaves. There were scientist reports that came out that said that they were actually like not even human, that they were like less than us, that they were pretty much the same as animals. Like there's that built up like this idea that we can treat them however we want, and then it like took a lot of processes to get them out of that, and now still there are structures that make it harder for them to live within the United States, right? That isn't the case for white people, whereas like we become the minority, but we don't become the minority through slavery or through like, you know, Jim Crow or anything like that. We become the minority through like colonialism.
Right.
So like, would you say that there is an advantage to being the majority of a country?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, for sure. And so I think that like if we are the majority and we can set up systems that make it to where it's not hard for people who are minorities to live in America, then that would actually quell all of our concerns, right? So this is why I talk a lot about systemic racism, because I want to fix the problems that there are with for minorities in America, so that eventually, if we are minorities, we are already protected and we have some sort of backup that that's already there, right? We've already taken care of this problem in the meantime.
I'm sorry, say that last part again. I wasn't paying attention.
I said that, like, this is why I talk about systemic racism, is because we can take care of minorities now and take care of the systems that actually make it harder for minorities in America, to where if one day we were minorities, we would already have some sort of structure that would protect us.
But do you think that we are going to have the same protections as the minorities who have been through so much shit in this country?
Well, we're already a protected class, right?
I mean, well, like technically, minorities are protected already, yet they still face a lot of shit. Like the system can be completely protecting you, yet that doesn't change the way the people can act towards you and the things that the people can do.
You mean like bullying?
Well, yeah, there's like that. People not getting jobs, people not getting loans. Like there can be a revenge in many ways. And how do you prove that it's because you're of a certain race? Or, I mean, hate crimes are like one of the hardest things to prove.
Yeah, it's really hard. Yeah, for sure. Which is why, again, like normally it's going to be the systems that reinforce these things. So like, there's nothing that's inherent about the difference between me and a black person, but we segregate things based on some sort of tribalism that we believe in. This is like a...
Wasn't the black nationalists like talking about a lot of the same things? So if say that like the black nationalists and the white nationalists or whatever are wanting these same things, then what?
What same things? What are you talking about?
Like some sort of segregation.
Oh, I'm not saying we want segregation. I'm saying that like we currently...
I'm not saying you want that. I'm saying that there's two sides that probably do though.
Yeah.
For their own self-interest.
Yeah, I don't care about the like black segregationists. Like I think that they're crazy people, and I kind of put them in the same box as like white segregationists or anybody else who's fighting to separate people based on race or build ethno-states or anything like that. But yeah, like again, like we can fix these structures now. We can fix the problems that we have now so that eventually when we are minorities, we wouldn't have that problem, right?
Mm-hmm. But that should already be in place right now. Like sure, what's not in place for protecting minorities that would need to be in place?
Well, so
all of it's already there.
Well, no. So a lot of it's like if you grow up in a poor neighborhood, which you're more likely to grow up in a poor neighborhood if you're a minority, and you're not like part of the ruling race, then like you're going to go to like a really poor school with really poor funding, right? Or you're more likely to grow up in a single parent household, or you're more likely to be around a lot of crime and drugs, right? So like if we actually put funding into these things now to where those are no longer issues, then when we're the minorities, we wouldn't have those issues either.
Right.
But the problem here is that like the people who are afraid of being a minority are the ones who are fighting me on whether or not we fix those issues.
Hold on, sorry. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
All right, so say that one more time. Sorry.
Okay, so like if we put funding into schools, if we put funding into like certain areas, or we fix it to where like the current problems that minorities are currently dealing with aren't problems anymore, then when we're minorities, we won't have to deal with those things anymore. But that's all a part of...
You're saying like things that are for the system, but that doesn't change people's minds. That doesn't change the way people view you.
No, it does.
In general, again, the system is there to protect minorities, yet that doesn't change racists that are going to go after them for their own
no, it does.
reasons. How so?
Okay, so
you
like
think that you just because the systems are in place that that Black people don't have to deal with any kind of racial oppression?
Well, no, they do, but it's because of those systems. So, like, if
What?
somebody,
No, it's that. Wait, what?
yes,
What system?
so
Tell me which system is it?
yeah,
That what's wrong with it?
yeah, well, I'll go through it. So, like,
Okay.
if minorities are more likely to grow up poor, right, and live in
Right.
poor
Mhm.
neighborhoods and go to poor schools, then they're more likely to
Mhm.
have poor education, less likely to get good jobs, more likely to be involved in
That
crime.
sounds like an economic issue, not a racial.
Well, true. So if they actually had like more funding in their schools to where they were more likely to go to better colleges and get better jobs, then that would fix some of that economic issue, right? And then also that actually makes it to where they're less likely to have two-parent house or less likely to have single-parent households, to where that would actually fix like a lot of the crime problems. But
Why would
when it
that
comes
make
to
it?
here, real quick,
Why would
real
that
quick,
make?
let me
Why would
finish.
that make?
Just real
Okay.
quick, because this is like the fourth
All
time
right.
I tried
Okay.
going through this.
I'm sorry. Okay.
A lot of our biases come from the fact that we look down on them because of these issues, because they're poor, because they commit more crimes, because they're less educated. We look at them and say, okay, well, then they are less than us, right? And so
Mhm.
if we actually fix the issues to where those biases wouldn't be there anymore, then the racism should also dissipate with that at the same time.
Right.
If we
Well,
take
but
away the
I mean,
criticisms.
but how would you know, Tom? That just sounds like an opinion. That sounds
No,
like something you can't prove.
no, it's not.
Like,
It is something that we can prove because we can
I
look
mean,
at
it
other
sounds like you're just
countries.
trying to predict something that you can't really know for sure.
No, it is no, we can't because we can look at
Oh
other
yeah.
countries where they've implemented these sort of things and where
Are other countries that are like that have our kind of diversity?
no country has our kind of diversity.
Okay, so then how could you compare it to anything else?
Well, if we know that one group was looked down upon based on these same issues, and then and then that country fixed those issues and they were no longer looked down on, then yeah, like we
So
can look at that.
what's your example of a comparable country then?
The what's it called? The like crap. I'm blanking on the word. Like Greenland and the Netherlands and that
Aren't they all white
Sweden.
countries?
No, they're not all white countries, but they are very homogenous. Yes.
Okay, so that cross that off your list.
Well, no, when that no, that would prove my point even more because these people are even more of a minority.
But they're not getting wait, what?
Yeah,
Who's the
like
minority there? And what kind
everybody
of
that's not
history do
white.
they have where they are treated the way the minorities in our country are treated?
Wait, that wasn't the point. The point was that they were minorities. They had trouble getting like they were looked down on. They had trouble. Yes, Nordic countries. Thank you. They had trouble with like biases towards them, and then when they fixed a lot of the economic problems that they had, this fixed some of the biases that were held towards these people.
Yeah, I don't think that you can really compare like places like Greenland and the Netherlands to what is happening here and the long history that blacks have faced in this country. So it's a little. I don't think you can compare those two.
So, what is like? Well, no, we can also look at like
Hold on, I gotta
how.
get my charger.
Yeah, go ahead.
My computer's gonna get. Hold on a second.
Go ahead. I didn't say there was no racial disparities in the Nordic countries, Mio. I said that we can see differences. Crap, it's already 5:30.
So why are you scared, bro?
I'm not scared. I'm talking to somebody else.
Sure about that one?
Yeah.
Just checking.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So you're aware they had rules against systemic or racial oppression in like Rhodesia and South Africa before the non-white people took political power and started genociding them anyway, right?
I don't know anything about Rhodesia, actually.
They call it Zimbabwe now after they drove all the white out.
Yeah, I'm aware of that part.
Okay. Might be something to look into before you say that when non-white people take power from a historically white country, or a country where white people have political power, you might want to look into historical examples of when that's happened before you say there's no trouble that could come from that, just because they had the white people who ran it had rules in place to try and stop that from happening before that.
Again, I didn't say that.
Place, you know.
Okay, you can talk to me. With what were you saying before that?
Oh, well, my question was going to be like, what would we do instead? Just make sure that we never become a minority?
Well, yeah.
That we can't do that.
Shouldn't you want to do that?
But we can't do that. Like white people are gonna mate and have children with other people that are not white, and that's just gonna keep happening.
Okay, that's fine. But I'm saying, like, when we're bringing in a lot of people that are gonna really speed that up, shouldn't we do things to contain?
Why? If it's gonna happen anyways, like, what is it that we're trying to? If we're just trying to slow it down when it's inevitable anyways, what's the point?
Well, because you don't want things to happen in that kind of rapid pace. Same thing, you'd want to kind of try to slow down the advancement of technology. If technology takes all these jobs in one go, that's going to be a huge shock to the system. Same thing with what's happening with a lot of the demographic shifts. It's a huge shock. We're seeing a huge backlash to it because people are freaking out for good reason.
Like what?
What do you mean, like what?
The demographic shifts, people are freaking out. Like, what are you talking about?
People are freaking out about all the change that's been happening in this country. And it's fast, and it's in your face because of social media.
Well, it's a very small group of people that are freaking out. Like, it's not actually a lot of people. Like,
well,
even like most Republicans have said that they're in favor of like immigration.
Yeah, the ones that have to. I promise you that a lot of those Republicans are exactly what I'm talking about with the whole. They have views they're probably not saying.
Well, no, these are like anonymous polls. Like, they don't. That would be the time to say it. Like, that's not. They're like. Nobody knows like who filled out the poll. They just know that like they checked off the box that says that they're a Republican. They checked off the box that says they're in favor of immigration.
I would need to see the poll.
Okay.
And are these polls done like on the phone?
Let me check. God dang it. Why does this keep pulling this up? Let me find the... Republicans are as likely as Democrats to say enactment of immigration bill is very important. Only about half of Republicans, 50%, say it is extremely or very important that President and Congress pass significant new immigration legislation this year, but that is little different from the shares of Democrats, 53%, or independents, 46%, who view enactment of an immigration bill as at least very important.
But can I tell you something also, Tom? Is I didn't have these.
Hello? And then the last part was a large majority of Republicans, 70%, think it would be better if the U.S. economy, for the U.S. economy, if undocumented immigrants became legal workers. That's 70%.
Sorry, what'd you say?
I said the last part was a large majority of Republicans, 70%, think it would be better for the U.S. economy if undocumented immigrants became legal
So for
workers.
the economy, they're talking about the economy.
Right. That's like
That's not
Republicans
something to do with
number one.
demographic shift.
That's like Republicans' number one voting issue.
A lot of these
is
Republicans,
the
first of all, a lot of these old like capitalist Republicans, yeah, they're economy first, but not everybody's going to be benefiting from a lot of that stuff. So that's not a poll on the demographics. They want to become a minority. Just message me. Oh, you sent it to me.
Yeah, I was sending you the study.
Yeah, so
Do you
that's
think if that idea of benefiting the economy was paired with the knowledge that it'll bring about an electoral winner that would doom Republicans for decades, that they'd still support that?
Well, I mean, if the more that Republicans become amenable to more immigration, the more minorities become Republicans.
Well, here you have a 70%, seem to be okay with amnesty. So what percentage does it take?
Well, that's just one part, but like allowing more immigrants in or being in favor of like systemic racism reform, like being in favor of some sort of restitution, like those sorts of things are the things that would bring, because like Black people, Mexicans, like most Latinos, actually most of those people are very socially conservative people, so they agree with us on most everything already. We seem to keep advocating against their rights, but not our actual elected representatives. Like when we look at elected representatives,
what does bringing in other people from the rest of the world have to do with the rights of people who are already here?
Like what rights?
Advocating for more immigration from the rest of the world, the third world specifically. What does that have to do with the rights of immigrants who are already here?
I'm talking about the people who are already here would vote
right, but you
more
said if
for
we
Republican.
supported immigration more, then they would be more likely to be Republican.
Yeah.
Why is that? What does that have to do with anything in
Well,
America?
because the more it is that you seem to like unnecessarily fight against bringing those people in, the more it seems as though you just don't like them for no reason, and so they don't want to team up with a bunch of people that just don't like them for no reason.
So do you think if they understood that we don't want immigration because of the electoral demographic that would place from it, that would solve that whole problem? Or is it just that they see those other people from other countries more as their people than other Americans who are already here?
Well, the exact opposite is talked about all the time, that like if Republicans just understood that if they actually advocated for things that helped minorities more, that they would actually get those minorities on their side because they already agree with Republicans on most things.
Right, I just don't see how bringing in other people from the rest of the world is like a direct benefit specifically to minorities in this country, other than it making them no longer minorities, making us the minority.
I just explained to you how.
Yeah, I'm not tracking on that. It seems like you're saying if we advocated for more people to come in from the rest of the world, then all of a sudden they would all change their overwhelming majority Democrat voting ideas, voting trends.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like we're playing a game of chicken and we have to blink first and then they'll all agree with us. And it just seems like kind of a gamble that it seems understandable why people wouldn't want to take.
Do you think that Republicans do a whole lot of like what do you call it, pandering to minorities?
Yeah, I think even Donald Trump did a lot of pandering to minorities. In fact, white men were the only group that he refused to mention in his his last State of the Union address. He named every single minority group and every single demographic group besides white men in his State of the Union address.
That wasn't my question. Do you think that Republicans pander to minorities more than Democrats do?
Oh no, I don't think so at all.
So, like,
So,
don't you think that would be a reason for them to vote for Democrats?
Pandering to minorities should be the way we decide how a country is run.
That's not what I said. I didn't say that. Like, I need you to stop rephrasing what it is that I'm saying and actually respond to what it is that I am saying, okay? When I say that they would be more likely to vote with Republicans if Republicans did give in to some of the things that they would want, that would help us get their vote. Whereas instead, Democrats do the things that they need to do to get those people's votes, even though those people disagree with Democrats on most of their issues.
What if what Republicans want is to not have demographics change to the point that there would be an electoral winner for the Republican Party as described by every major news outlet?
Again, the demographic change depends mostly on whether or not the Republicans change some of the things on their platform. So it's the responsibility of the Republicans to get their vote, not those people to just change their vote just because you don't like it, right?
So if Republicans ran on build the wall and also pander to minorities that are already, you think that those minorities, specifically Latinos, would start voting Republican?
Yeah, sure, yeah. Because like building a wall actually stops very small. Let's say everybody who walks across the border is now stopped. That would still stop a very small minority of immigration. So yeah, they wouldn't really care.
Okay, and what if it was stop or slow down, restrict legal immigration as well, but pander to minorities that are already here? You think they vote Republican?
Probably not.
Yeah, so it's a big issue for them to have more people from their own ethnic in-group flooding into this country for them. That's what you're saying.
Well, what you just
regardless
did,
of any other policies.
What you just did was put yourself into a catch-22, where you're saying, well, we pander to them, but we stop their people from immigrating, meaning they're probably not going to vote for us if we stop them from immigrating. Whereas we could wait. So hold on. Whereas they're going to become the minority or the majority one way or the other. What we could do is pander to them, allow their people in, and get them on our side to where they would vote with us one way or the other, and they would become the majority, and there would be nothing to worry about.
What if we just increase the birth rates of white people instead, and then we wouldn't be the minority inevitably?
Do it.
If we stopped immigration as well.
Do it.
So that's something that you'd be down for, that type of policy?
I don't see any reason to actually, like, currently, right now, we are not replacing the workforce. This is going to be a huge economic hit, even with what do you call it? Like new IT. I can't think of the word.
Automation.
What is it?
Automation, technology.
Yes. Even with automation, like, we're still not going to replace the workforce. So, like, I think that would be a huge mistake. Like, we have to have.
It's a lot of it, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of it. There's also a lot of people just not having kids. Like, I'm 33. I've wanted to have kids my entire life. I've got no kids. So, like, Brittany, we need to get those white kids coming. It's up to you and me to save America. Let's do this.
Hey, yo, he just threw it down.
Let's go.
Gotta say, I'm a fan of this whole idea. It could work out.
Could work out.
There's no better way to have white kids. Just saying, Brittany.
My point is, like, you are continuously working against your own interests, whereas like what it is that I'm saying actually gets the best of both worlds. But you don't want the best of both worlds. You just want less immigration, and you use all of these other things to make it sound like it's some huge problem, so that you can just get the less immigration, because that's the point. When like in reality, if we could get more immigration and have them vote Republican, it wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Yeah, so honestly, if there was a poll that existed that showed that like stopping immigration or severely restricting it to the point that it wouldn't reach it wouldn't make a major electoral change in America before these voting changes that you're talking about takes place. If that was okay with them and they would switch their voting tendencies, that might make a solid argument to a lot of Republicans who feel the way I do.
That's not what I said, though.
Such a poll exists. I don't think that any of
That's not what I said, though.
Latinos who are advocating for more immigration have said anything like that.
That's not what I said
like
either, though.
A decent theory of yours, but if there was
it's not a
poll
theory
that
of mine.
Suggested that was the case.
That's not a theory of mine. This is my problem, dude. Is because you keep arguing against things that I'm not saying, or like that wasn't even an argument. You're just going off and rephrasing everything that I said so that you can preach for a little bit as though I said that, but I didn't. Like how about this? No. Hold on. How about this? If we had, if we could, like, say we know for sure, just a hypothetical, say we know for sure that like all of the Latinos would vote as Republicans, right? And we get them all on our side, but like the culture is probably going to change in some way, but there's no genocide or anything because they're all on our side as Republicans, right? Would you be in favor of that happening? Like we secure our fate and like are able to and are able to have immigration and a more powerful party in the end?
At that point, that seems like a much better option. Anything that people who believe the way I do have been presented with by anybody on either side of American politics so far, to be honest, because it doesn't end in white genocide, which at this rate we're projected to go extinct in 200 years, something like that. So yeah, I'd be more in favor of that than pretty much anything either party is offering. That's for sure.
Okay, so that then I don't understand why you keep changing what I'm saying. If I say that we allow more immigration and become minorities.
Maybe I worded it poorly. What my issue is that the continuing to allow this immigration, and specifically an issue like amnesty, which would be immediate, that would bring in roughly, according to Harvard's most recent study, I think 22 million new American voters that were undocumented immigrants, which is a larger amount than any electoral margin in presidential election history since like 1984, I think, the Reagan election. Then the issue is that, with something like that on the horizon, I don't see the electoral tendencies of these people changing quick enough in order for that all to work out the way you present it. And so if you could present a path to something like that happening without or like the electoral tendencies changing before the so many people are brought in and voting and brought into the American electoral system and voting Democrat and all of that, then that would be a much more convincing argument. But at this point, I don't see any kind of trend or poll or anything like that which demonstrates that would actually take place before something like amnesty takes place.
Yeah, so
and I think that's why the Democrats are pushing amnesty so quickly and immediately is they want that to go through, so the Republican electoral winner happens, before any kind of change can happen. That's why they want more immigration always, open borders. We're hearing from elected officials and stuff like that.
I agree. And I think if it was Republicans who were doing that instead, we would be the ones who seemed as though we are their allies, and it would be us who they were voting for in the end. But we're not.
Well, and see, that sort of gets to the heart of the problem, is that Republicans are a much more white voting demographic. It's like, what, 90% of Trump's voters were white people, and it seems like a big issue for a lot of these people is their culture and their heritage being torn away. I mean, you saw what happened to Robert E. Lee's statue in Virginia earlier today. There's minorities cheering that on like it's a good thing. They're chopping him in half and throwing the pieces in women's prison, bro. That's considered a symbol of heritage to tens of millions of Americans, that minorities are cheering on that it's being torn down. And so to those people, it seems like these people are antagonistic towards us. And
well, this is why I asked you if you were more concerned about being the majority and the culture than you were about having systemic power and stopping the genocide. And while we're talking about what it would take,
what if not for our people, are the historic American people? Historic power. You want electoral power for Republican economics? It's like, that's not what defines the right versus left anymore. It's these social issues, just like our statues and our heritage being torn away and described as evil and demonized in all of these ways, and in the way the minorities they're advocating for more, tear it all down.
What part of Robert E. Lee do you see as part of your heritage?
Robert E. Lee was an American hero, and my ancestors fought under him. So
what the heck?
My dad still has the cavalry saber from the Confederate Army in the Civil War that my ancestors fought. My cousins still live on the plantation that my ancestors lived on. It's like right next to a battlefield. It's like, this is my heritage.
Why?
Why? It's what my ancestors did. They were fighting. They chose their people over the federal government when it became tyrannical against them. Robert E. Lee was a hero in that way for doing exactly that.
We already had a conversation about this.
Horrible guy. Lincoln wanted him to fight for him. He said, "I choose my people over the federal government."
We already had a conversation about this where I said that the Civil War was about states' rights, and you said, "Oh, really? You don't think it was about slavery?" And I said, "No, you're right. It was all about slavery." So don't change it about a tyrannical government, blah blah blah. It was about slavery, dude. You've already admitted this. I can pull up the clip if you'd like me to. You have already said this, so don't change it now.
No, that was me trying to test on how lefty you are, because you're kind of questionable on the right on some issues, and so
that's because you guys work in narratives. You guys
rights, or whether it's about slavery. Obviously, a vast minority of landowners in the South owned slaves, and almost nobody who fought in the Civil War owned slaves. So what were they fighting for exactly? Because it wasn't their slaves, their right to own them.
No.
Right?
No, hold on. No. They were fighting for the right to own slaves. Maybe not to own their own slaves, but they were fighting for the right to own slaves.
Do you think our ancestors were killing their brothers, marching barefoot like children, and to the point where they left bloody footprints for dozens of miles?
Tell me why they were fighting.
Some rich guy's right to own slaves?
Tell me why they were fighting.
You think that's what they were doing?
Tell me why they were fighting.
They were fighting because the industrialized North was squeezing them, and it was destroying their economy. It was destroying their farms, their homes. It was becoming completely overreaching in a great many ways, and the states who existed for over 100 years before the federal government existed, they wanted out. And the question of secession being legal was totally open at the time, as Abraham Lincoln was largely seen as a tyrant by many of them. And that's why Robert E. Lee chose to side with his people. It wasn't over his right to own slaves. In fact, I think he freed all of his slaves.
Okay, so hold on.
I mean, why would he free all of his slaves and then become a general in the Confederate Army just so that for his right to own slaves that he freed anyway?
Okay, Miyo, I need you to think about this, okay? There's a lot of people in chat. They're going to go clip this if you answer this wrong, okay? So I need you to answer this. Think about it for a second, okay? If they took slavery, if slavery was no longer an issue, and Lincoln said, oh, okay, you can have the slavery, as long as you and we can stop the war, right? No war. We don't want to start a war. You can have the slavery. Would the Confederates have taken that deal?
That is a trick question. No, I think that the Confederates, I think that slavery was a part of the Civil War, but I think there were a great many more parts and political aspects at play which led to the war than just slavery alone. And that's why I think the majority of the people who were fighting in the war didn't own slaves and still chose to anyway. I think that's why there were people who freed their slaves who still chose to fight in the war, because they weren't fighting over slavery. In fact, General Lee said if he could stop the war by freeing all the slaves, he would.
Yeah, but he kept slaves after the war.
If he could preserve the Union, as in the federal government's control over all the states, without freeing a single slave, he would. So clearly it wasn't about that for either guys who are like the biggest figureheads on each side. So I'm curious how you reconcile that with the belief that it was just only about slavery.
Well, for one, Robert E. Lee actually was part of militias that went and stopped runaway slaves and actually killed a bunch of other militias who were trying to help free slaves and hung them and killed lots of people in very vicious ways because they wanted to free slaves. So he wasn't some martyr for slavery that was out there trying to end it.
Before the Civil War took place?
Yeah,
this is before the Emancipation Proclamation.
Before
and we're still considered property by people, and being a runaway slave was a crime that was punishable by whatever the owner of the slave saw fit. I don't think that viewing this without viewing it through the historical lens of how people saw things at the time is very productive.
I agree with that, but we're not just talking about viewing it through a lens. We're talking about somebody who is actively going out and stopping people from helping free slaves. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to own slaves either.
It's funny that although he was doing that, Abraham Lincoln still asked him to be a general in the Civil War for the Union, isn't it? It's curious, huh?
Right. I
Clearly,
don't think
he
that
didn't
mattered.
see that as a major problem.
Yeah, I don't think that mattered as far as whether or not he was good at warfare. Why would that matter?
Yeah, but if it was all about the evil slave owners versus the people who wanted to free the slaves, clearly he wouldn't have wanted one of these evil slave hunter owners to be a general, one of the leading figureheads in his war, right? That would be silly.
Why would he pick generals over frickin' morality? Why does he care? He just wants a good general, dude.
Well, I thought that's what the war was all about.
Who cares?
If we had a war, and you said, I like blue crayons, and I said, I like green crayons, okay? And we were going to fight a huge war about it, I wouldn't pick people who like blue crayons as my generals in the war. That would be ridiculous.
The U.S. literally does it.
War is about, isn't it?
The U.S. does it all the time, dude. The US does it all the time. You never heard of like the CIA like going over to other countries and making deals with people who are on the other side and getting them to like help us or like stand down or like
No,
buy.
they make deals with other groups
No, not just
have
other groups.
aligning interests.
Eh,
They don't make
we're
groups with the
we
enemy
are
to fight the
we are
enemy.
way off topic right now. When it comes to becoming a minority, one of the things that would actually help us in the long run is actually working to help the minorities that are there now in making it to where being a minority isn't such a bad thing. Like that's
Yeah, see, the problem with that is you really should read up on what happened in Asia, because they had a fully democratic system and they had set laws in place to prevent discrimination. And then what happened is immediately when the blacks gained political power, they voted in all black politicians in leadership and government, and then they changed the name of the country, and then they set policies to where they could drive all of the white farmers out of Rhodesia legally. And I mean, there's so many articles about this, because it's what happened, that there was all the white farmers had to flee from Rhodesia and they were forced out. And in fact, they caused a man-made hunger crisis in Zimbabwe, after it was called that, by driving all the white farmers out. And so that's, I mean, they did that based on racial grievances from the history of that country. And so I think that for us to do the same thing, to grant political power to racial and ethnic groups that have historical grievances against us, to the point where there are major influencers in these groups openly calling for white genocide, as we saw Vosh defending against yesterday. I think that would be pretty stupid for us to hand over political power and just hope that they're going to be as nice to us as we'd like to be to them, and all move forward holding hands and singing Kumbaya.
those people are
Don't
such
think
a
that would be
small
very smart.
minority,
Same thing
dude.
happened in South Africa.
That,
As soon as the whites handed political power over
bro,
to the blacks, it became white genocide within 2 decades.
Bro. You gotta make your arguments more succinct. You gotta just like give me something.
I wish
I got like 20 to 30 things that I gotta argue against in one line. Like, this is ridiculous. Like,
oh yeah, sure, it's all one thing. It's that historically, wherever whites hand over political power in countries where they have it historically to other racial ethnic groups that have historical grievances against them, it doesn't turn out well for them, period, no matter what rules they put in place before.
That's been pretty much the case.
They can change the rules, you know.
Yeah, that's been the case for like literally every country ever, for every ethnic group. It's not just white people,
right.
But
and
like,
so for us to say it's going to change now with ours, we just have to trust them. That would be a pretty stupid thing for us to do, realizing that how it's always gone in every country ever.
Well, we wouldn't be handing over power to one ethnic group.
You're right. It would be several different ethnic groups that have been forming this people of color coalition of everyone against whites.
So
and they all have racial grievances against us for colonization, slavery, the works. When
we go below 50%, we will still be the majority. We won't be a super majority anymore.
Well, not for very long. I mean, Hispanics are already like 38% of the population. When we go below 50%, and combined with all of the other minorities, and again 2 decades later of this racial grievance theory stuff, yeah, I think that they'll have a solid voting bloc that outnumbers whites.
Yeah, but like they're gonna have the same exact thing as us, where they're integrating and cross mating, like having kids with different races. Like it's all gonna be the same thing that we're doing right now. Like they're just gonna keep getting smaller by themselves.
I'm sorry. You think so? You think that? I mean, when whites are mixing with non-whites, you realize you don't get white children, right? It increases the non-white demographic, actually.
Wait, say that again.
When white people have babies with brown people, you don't get white babies out of that, generally speaking.
Yeah, sure. I'm
That's
not
that's how
talking about.
genetic
I
variation,
didn't.
what
I didn't
Mendelian
say
kind of
anything like that.
squares or whatever.
I didn't say anything like that. It's not as if they're only going to be mating with white people. Like, there's lots of other ethnic groups.
And so while they're all mating with each other, their combined ethnic group, their combined genetic, their racial identification will still be just a combination of different groups that have been historically oppressed by whites. If I'm half Latino and I'm half black, well, that means I'm oppressed two different ways by white people, right?
Well, no.
Because one side, my ancestors were colonized, and on the other, my ancestors were slaves.
No. Like, that's not how that works, dude. Like, you're not. Like, if a black person and a Mexican person mate, like, and they. It's not like all of the black people and all of the Mexican people are all mating to create some super majority, like the freaking super.
You're
like,
the one that brought up that they'd be mixing. I was assuming
yes,
that they
but
wouldn't be, and just the
that's
combined voting bloc would still outnumber the white people in 20 years when we're less than 50% of the population.
That's not how that works, dude. Like, to say that like all Mexicans and all black people now mix to become a different race. Like, no, there's also Middle Easterners, there's also Asians, there's also Jewish people, there's also white people, there's all, there's Native Americans, there's all sorts of different people that everybody's going to be cross.
Every single group that you mentioned has a historical grievance against white people for something.
Okay.
Every single one.
Okay.
So again, it's all of these when whites hand over political power to racial groups that have racial grievances against them, in all of human history, everywhere it's ever happened, it doesn't turn out well for them, and generally ends in white genocide, especially in recent history. So
do you think there have been more genocides against white people than
that won't happen this time? This time they'll be nice. I don't think would be very smart of us, would it?
Do you think there have been more genocides against white people than there have been genocides that white people have committed on others?
I don't know what that has to do with anything. I'm talking about historical.
Because no, hold on. It does matter because
I'm not
hold on.
The truth is that white people dominated the entire known world.
Hold on. If the argument is because white people become minorities and because other times they have been genocided, well, if there is a much larger history of white people genociding everybody else, but we're currently in power, we're currently the majority, we're currently not genociding everybody else because there are protections that have been put in place for everybody else to where that's not a thing that we can do anymore.
Well, that's not why we're not genociding. Like, those rules were imposed on us. White people made the rules that way.
No.
And it's like when we went around colonizing, we weren't genociding everyone in the countries that we colonized.
Right.
That's not how it happened. What I'm talking about is political power shifts within a country. And you don't even have to do whites versus non-whites. It's any ethnic group. It's the Tutsis and the Hutus in Rwanda. When one group takes political power from another ethnic group that they have a historical racial grievance against, or ethnic grievance against even, it doesn't turn out well for them. Period.
Yeah, and the same with like anybody. And throughout history, more often than anything that you're talking about has happened, white people have become the majority and have genocided the minorities. But not anymore. That's not happening anymore because we're putting into place structures that can make sure that doesn't happen.
It's not that we stopped genociding people because we put rules in place to stop genociding people. Our values, our Western civilization values, led us to these conclusions and these rules about genocide being wrong that we've imposed on ourselves and everyone else. And as long as we keep political power, those rules, which are downstream from our values, which are downstream from our culture, will continue to exist. But you best believe, just like everywhere else it's ever happened, when we give over political power to these other racial groups, which have racial grievances against us, that they're going to change the rules and things aren't going to be good, just like they always have.
No, that's not like that. That doesn't logically add up. If it is because we put into place systems to stop this, just like ending slavery, just like giving rights to indigenous people, just like making protected classes. Like, yes, all of these things were built to stop any sort of cultural genocide or literal genocide from taking place anymore.
And who put those rules in place? We did.
So
it's
what?
It's not like we were following those rules.
So
we
what?
made those rules.
So what?
Yeah, the point is, it's not that we stopped genociding everybody because now there are rules against it. We stopped genociding everybody and made rules against it to make sure it doesn't happen.
So what?
But they're going to change the rules when they have power. They're already talking about hacking the Supreme Court, man. It's like they can change any rule that they want.
Bro, you're like, oh, come on.
I'm not talking about random activists talking about packing the Supreme Court. I'm talking about elected officials. I think even the President of the United States has mentioned it at this point. And you're laughing like it's a ridiculous idea that they would consider doing that. But, it's a vice president who is openly advocating for these same ideas of racial grievance against white people and correcting them in major ways. And all of this rhetoric leads to exactly what we saw yesterday that Bosch was arguing against, which is basically white genocide. White people need to be dealt with. It's not the ideology, it's the colonizers, it's the people, and get rid of them.
Okay.
It's all downstream from that, man. And it's these people who believe this way. It would be absurd for us to hand over political power to them before that ideology, which is inherently anti-white and dangerous to our people, is corrected.
But again, there are protections in place. Why would they get rid of those protections? Like, what I don't even think they can get rid of those protections.
They absolutely can. If they pack the Supreme Court, they can change any amendment to the Constitution, man. They're already talking about changing the First and Second Amendments. It's a mainstream idea. They're outdated.
Why wouldn't they leave the country
instead? Didn't you hear that free speech is anti-Semitic? It's a problem.
Why wouldn't they just leave the country?
That's what I keep saying.
No, it's not what you keep saying. That would make so much more sense than like taking hundreds of years to take over a country just to kill all the white people. Like, they would just leave the freaking country. That's what black separatism is. That's what land back is. That's what all of these things are, is these people just trying to get away from white people, not trying to take over the country so that they can kill all the white people or genocide them.
So I agree that there are those among like black separatists and whatnot who just want to go their own way. There are some who feel that way. However, there's a great many more who want to take the systems of power and all the cool toys that white people invented from them and leave the country without whites in it. They think the world would be better off. We can't trust these white people with all these cool toys because, didn't you hear about the Holocaust? It's kind of a big deal.
But again, they all say the same thing about white people becoming the majority. The white people always go off and genocide everybody.
And we've been making rules against genocide, against racial discrimination, against any of these issues that they could have.
Exactly. Precedents can change, man. things can change. We've been genociding everybody since the beginning of time, but now we're not. Now we're putting into place
Don't you think
protections.
we're gonna pay for that though?
Right. It's it's that our people, our Western civilization values and culture led us to these conclusions, and they don't share that culture. They hate it. And they want to tear it down and chop it in half and throw it in women's prison. And then take out the time capsules and fill it with gay stuff.
Do you, Christian, do you think
You
that,
heard about that too, right?
I have no clue what you're talking about.
When did you invite me?
They open up the time capsule that's supposed to be left for future historians out of the base of the Robert E. Lee statue, and they took all of the racist or whatever artifacts of it, read, Southern heritage and whatnot, and they filled it with gay stuff and with like African stuff and all sorts of other things. They're not leaving us anything.
I got Sam Cedared with Miyo.
Oh, okay.
All right, yeah.
So Brittany's just broadcasting.
Have a good time. I just wanted to say hi to Zanya in a context where she won't mute me. So, what's up, Zanya? How's it feel to be on the other end of things? You're forced to listen to me now. I'm the captain now. Look at me, Zanya.
I was Sam Cedering you. What are you? Are you Steven Crowdering now?
Christian in. He doesn't know what's going on. He brought Christian in the call.
Christian's in? Yeah, I couldn't tell because he's not talking like usual. So.
You're really funny, man.
Just planning on sitting there again?
No, I mean, I would engage if you had something valuable to say.
Sounds about right. Just what he said last time. This conversation is totally unproductive, and so I'm just going to sit here for 3 hours while Sanzel takes on the argument.
Well, it was unproductive. Conversations with you are necessarily unproductive.
What are you doing here now? You jumped on just to say I have nothing to say? Congratulations.
No,
I was invited to be here.
I invited him on.
I mean, it's cool. It's just like if I was invited to a debate where I had nothing to say because I felt like it wasn't a good conversation to even have in the first place, I would probably just stay in the audience.
That seems it seems like a weird point that has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Yeah.
What do you mean what we're talking about? You're not the one talking.
He's talking right now.
Like usual.
You've been talking to him for the past 2 minutes.
What you have to realize about these types, Tom, is they find one rhetorical line and they stick to it.
I teach rhetoric. I'm well aware of what it is he's doing.
No, the rhetorical line is that you have nothing to say, which is what you just said, because this isn't a productive conversation, which is what you always say. So, you just heard me make a lot of arguments just now. If you have anything to say about any of them, I'm all ears, dude.
So let me ask you a question, Christian. Do you know anything about this Rhodesia thing? I don't know anything about this.
I don't know what you're talking. I like I said, I wasn't watching the stream, so I don't even know what Rhodesia is or what we're talking about.
Yeah, me neither. He keeps bringing it up, but it's.
Okay, Rhodesia was a country. It was a colony that was settled by the Boer, which is a B-O-E-R. It's a group of Dutch settlers that were there hundreds of years before the Zulus or whatever that showed up, and. They made a country in South Africa, really difficult land to farm, and they built a civilization there, and it's like, you can look at old pictures of Rhodesia, and it's like an African safari dreamland, sort of. They built a prosperous country. It had the best qualities of metrics of quality of life in all of Africa, besides maybe South Africa itself, that country, right next to it. And it was bordered by like 5 other tribal groups and ethnic groups from Africa after they moved nearby. And the British royalty during the decolonization period, when they were working for your good old friends, they forced Rhodesia to become fully democratic with the economic sanctions and embargoes and stuff like that. And I mean, Rhodesia had a nuclear program, which like almost every country in the world still doesn't at this point. Now, granted, it's like illegal at this point, but they had one up and functioning before any of that. They were an advanced country. They were very well off. And the problem is that the whites were the minority in that country. And so when the British royalty forced them to become fully democratic through their economic warfare, the first thing that happened in the very next election is I think it was Mugabe is the guy's name. They voted him and a bunch of other black politicians in immediately just because they were black and they had good rhetoric about the white colonizers. And then everything got worse in South Africa, or sorry, in Rhodesia. They changed the name to Zimbabwe then. And every metric of quality of life since then has gotten significantly downhill, and the white farmers were ran out of Zimbabwe now. And I mean, you can look up, there's articles from 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and it starts with the white farmers are forced to leave. You know, Mugabe says, you know, get the hell out. And, you know, for your own safety, you better leave. They were forced out by political violence from you know, these people who had a problem with them. And then they created a man-made starvation crisis because it turns out they didn't know how to run the machines, how to run the farms, how to farm in Africa. Imagine that. And so, you know, then they were begging. They actually offered like $3.2, I think, billion in reparations for the white farmers if they would just come back and help save the country. But of course they didn't come back because they know what happens. And yeah, so Zimbabwe is just another third world, what did the president say? Shithole now. And then the same thing happened in South Africa not long after that.
Okay, so hold on.
Buses or whatever.
Hold on.
He's got a script. He's got to finish the script.
Brittany, he can't hear us. Can you? Okay, so in Rhodesia, they went after them because like the land was taken from them, and so they wanted to take it back, which they shouldn't have, and that was messed up. But like that's not the case here. There's not like a massive.
For hundreds of years before the Zulus or whatever showed up.
Yeah,
they weren't in that part of Africa because it was unfarmable for all non-whites.
Again, that's not the case here. Equipment. Again, that's not the case here, though. Like, there's not like Native Americans aren't the ones who are going to be taking over and becoming the majority to like kill all the white people. Like, that's not a thing.
You're right. It's not Native Americans. It is people who call us colonizers, just the same as the people in South Africa and Rhodesia do.
What?
It's going to be people who call us colonizers and people who went through chattel slavery and you know what's one of the worst historical grievances of all mankind in the modern history.
I need to point out real quick.
I think that slavery wasn't as bad as colonization.
I need to point out real quick, like Miyo, like he said, like you're not actually making arguments against what I said. You're making rhetorical points to make it sound like they call us colonizers. Like this isn't an argument to say, Tom, you're wrong. This is an argument to just say like they sound bad and big and evil.
Okay, so here's why I'm saying that is because it's not the people specifically that we took the land from who will be the new majorities, put together majority when we become less than 50% of the population. It's people who were colonized just the same in their countries in South America who have come here who still claim that that North America is also their land too, and that they're natives here as well, just like AOC said. And they're saying that this is their land. The colonizers took it from them. It's their rightful homeland, and they have the right to own it.
Is your point that like the Rhodesia example is bad and should be condemned, or are you extrapolating it saying that wherever black people are elected and have power, white people will get kicked out? I'm confused to what point you're making.
Yeah, the point is that, and it's not just Rhodesia, it's also South Africa. It's that wherever whites have a larger population ethnic group that takes over their fully democratic systems political electorate, that and this group has racial grievances against them from history, that these people enact those racial grievances which they've been fantasizing about the whole time. Is that too difficult to wrap your head around?
No, I understood what you said totally. Again, it's still wrong though, because the idea that historically speaking, wherever white people lose their majority status and black people come in power, then follows a genocide or the removal of white people.
It's not just because they're black.
I doubt
because they have a racial grievance against the whites.
I understand, but even in those examples,
just making that clear.
There isn't a substantive enough historical case to make the case that that happens every time, and there's also no way to establish causality. All you're doing is saying that that's the case because it's rhetorical.
I'm not saying that it always happens.
No,
every
you
time.
literally said it always happens every time. You literally said.
So to gamble that that's going to change is a pretty tough gamble to make when you're giving up the world hegemony of the most powerful civilization on the face of the planet, right?
Don't backtrack. You said it would always happen.
You said it does always happen.
I said it does always happen, and it
Every
always
time.
has. According to history, I'm right.
Okay, so let's say we have 3 examples of a historical event occurring under certain circumstances. What does that tell us about future events in similar circumstances?
It tells us that gambling that 100% record is going to change just because we hope so is probably not that bright.
No, but again, that wouldn't be the point. The point would be that we don't have a sufficient enough historical case to say that, for example, because something occurred in this way before, given different circumstances under the same framework, it would occur in a similar way.
You know,
there's no real reason to believe
you say that, because I heard earlier tonight that you're not allowed to talk about the disproportionate amount of Jews in power because, well, that happened one time and it turned out really bad.
That's not true. You're making that up. No.
Well, the one time.
No, you didn't.
Not only is that not true, but it's not my
power
point.
and they talked about Jewish power in their country. Well, they genocided them, and so we can never allow people to talk about things like that, which Bosch did just yesterday. I haven't said anything that he hasn't. We can't allow people to talk about that because the one time that they did, they were genocided. But the 2-3 times that it's happened to whites in these countries, that's still not sufficient enough evidence.
Okay, real quick, Mio, you don't need to repeat the same thing 3-4 different times, just reworded. Like, just say it once.
Clear here for Christian. He seems to have a little trouble understanding.
Okay.
I don't know what Brittany finds particularly funny.
Love this.
It seems as though every time that Miyo makes a dog whistle to some sort of Nazi-esque point, Brittany finds it funny. I think that's rather telling.
I don't understand why it seems like a dog whistle when I'm just saying the exact same thing Vosh said. Was Vosh dog whistling yesterday, bro?
Was Vosh dog whistling yesterday? On what point?
Did you not see the clip? He said there's a disproportionate amount of Jews in power for the United States, and that's true. And in the media and in the government, they have disproportionate power. And so looking at that, there's there are people that would say that something should be done about to stop that. Their colonial intentions against our people. That's
No. He was bringing up that other people are dog whistling that. He wasn't dog whistling. If I repeat that Mio said this thing, I am not now dog whistling just because I repeated what Mio said.
It's true that they have disproportionate power in media and government. He said that is objectively true. And following from that, people would say, well, we should stop them and their colonial intentions. He said Nazis would say that.
Right.
But he did say it's true that they have disproportionate power in media and government. There's a huge disproportionate number of them there. And it's just, if he's allowed to say that, then I think I should be allowed to say that.
In what country are you talking about?
In America.
Okay. Can you name 5 Jewish people inside of government?
5 Jewish people inside of the government. I mean, you can pretty much just like walk into Washington D.C. and point a
spin
your finger around, dude.
So name.
Okay,
so
name
point your
5.
finger. Point your
So name
finger.
5.
Bernie Sanders Jewish.
Well, sure. Let's start with Bernie. I think we've got
Well, Ruth Bader
Let's see.
Ginsburg was Jewish.
Let's get that Google machine working.
No, we've I could pull up a whole infographic of hundreds of them if you like, man. I think most of the chairmen of the Federal Reserve, historically speaking, we've got.
Wait, this is a stupid question. Like, we're gonna know like the religion of every single freaking person.
He's acting. No, Brittany, no, Brittany. He's acting like everybody in government is freaking shut up, Miyo.
In Congress right now, like
I can answer your question right now. According to the statistics, it is 37 people, and the total of 535 lawmakers are Jewish.
Yeah, and how many of the people that work with them are Jewish?
No, that's not true. I mean, we've got like over 200 dual citizens with Israel in Congress, some crazy number like that. Maybe not 200, something insane like that are dual citizens with Israel.
Dual citizenship, would you apply the same standard to people who have dual citizenship in other countries? Is that also a problem? Or is it only Jewish people?
I mean, just on principle alone, like regardless of any country, I don't think that leaders in our government should have dual citizenship with any country because it could cause a conflict of interest. But that's beside.
How so? How could it cause a conflict of interest? What does citizenship mean?
If you are loyal to your country and another country,
citizenship have to do with
then
loyalty?
that's dual loyalty, is it not?
What does citizenship have to do with loyalty?
Why would you have dual citizenship?
For example, like French Canadians may have dual citizenship to Canada and French. That doesn't mean they're loyal to the French government. It means they may have a home in French. They may have family in France.
Why wouldn't they be loyal to both? Why would you have
if you have a home in France, then you have a vested interest in France doing well. Do you not? Landowners, that's specifically why only landowners were allowed to vote in America in the first place, is because it was only people that had a vested interest in the future of the nation that were allowed to vote. And so that's like, I mean, how is it different?
It's really hard to stay on point.
In another nation, is that not a vested interest?
It's really hard to stay on point when you keep moving to other historical examples. The point is that nothing about citizenship has to do with loyalty. Citizenship can mean many different things to many different people.
How do you know that? Wait, how do you know that? You guys have sat there and said, I can't prove things because I'm just thinking them.
I get like halfway through a sentence and you have something else to say, and I don't particularly care.
I'm guessing what you're saying right now because you're doing the exact same thing you guys accused me of doing.
But the thing is, you can't address what I'm saying if you've heard maybe 25% of it.
Well, then wrap it up. And like try to just like
also just real quick, Brittany, you're asking him to prove a negative. That's not possible. Like, you would be the one who would have to prove that they do have loyalty to the other country. He can't prove that they don't have loyalty to the other country.
Wait a minute. No.
Yes. Are you familiar with Andrew Pollack, the former CIA Israeli spy?
I want to let Christian
for the CIA and ended up
we're gonna go off into the weeds.
On the CIA the entire time he was there, and then he was flown to Israel, met on the tarmac by Benjamin Netanyahu, and then he said personally himself that all Jews in America have a dual loyalty to Israel because it's their religion, that it's their holy land, and why wouldn't they?
All right, Christian, finish what you were saying.
Okay, your argument for why loyalty equals citizenship cannot be why wouldn't they, and we have examples of people who do that.
It's not my argument why wouldn't they. It's the
then why are you talking about it? It's not your argument.
On the CIA.
If it's not your argument, then don't talk about it.
That it's their holy land. If you have let's say it's your religion that Ecuador is the holy land of your people, and your people, your ethnic group, they're all still living in Ecuador, and it's your religion that's a special place for them, and so given if that's the case, would you be more loyal to the place that you were born in? That's just where you live right now, or your holy land? It's a religious thing for you.
What about
gesturing
what's her name? Omar
to examples? Gesturing to examples.
Muslim. She's Somali.
Yeah, but like, doesn't she fight for Isn't she constantly fighting for those countries almost like more so than America?
No, she literally she's literally a lawmaker for
May Allah awaken the people to the evils of Israel and the United States.
Okay, that's fine. She's literally a lawmaker for the United States. She's not, and she lives here.
And
she doesn't live there. She's not a lawmaker for them.
We're also Mott and Baileying so hard right now because your initial claim was not that there are individual people who may have nefarious dual citizenships. Your point was that by virtue of holding dual citizenship, you become disloyal to the United States by having another loyalty.
I
necessarily
didn't say disloyal. I said that you can have a potential for conflict of interest, and that therefore, on principle, we probably shouldn't allow it in our country. Okay, and there's countries that have this as their policy already, and I think it's a pretty smart one.
Okay, well, whatever country has it is irrelevant. Why do you think that the potential to do something is justification for removing its possibility or for removing its existence?
I think that when it comes to running your country, the potential for a conflict of interest between loyalty to your nation and another nation is of high importance.
There's the potential of corruption, but we shouldn't go and attack that either because they might.
No, guys, your argument is
very distinct.
Yeah, your argument's just bad. Like you can't say like, well, someone who buys a gun. Brittany, let me finish. Like, if somebody goes and buys a gun, you can't say, well, they have the potential to go shoot up a crowd of people more than somebody who doesn't have a gun. Therefore, we need to like keep eyes on them and make sure, or go ahead and arrest them. Like, yes, there's more potential, maybe, but that doesn't mean that they're actually doing that thing, or you're going to treat them as though they're already doing that thing.
And we do not prevent people. We do not prevent people from serving in places of government because of suspected or potential corruption.
It's not a right that they have to serve in our government. They work for us. So
Trump had business in a bunch of other countries that were enemies, and we still voted him in. Like, that's perfectly fine. He had a lot of potential for corruption.
It wasn't fine, though, and it shouldn't have been allowed.
Yeah, of course not. That's how you get things like, a bunch of Mossad agents dancing and celebrating and filming themselves watching the Twin Towers falling, who just get flown to Israel without any questions asked by our political leadership, by the FBI, right on 9/11, and then what? Then we go to war and protect Israel from a bunch of Muslim nations for 20 years. And, you have George W. Bush just the other day, 2 weeks ago, he said, for the sake of Israel, we have to stop the terror. He said it on a golf course. I could pull up the clip. And it's like, why for the sake of Israel? Oh, because they're the only democracy in the Middle East, right? That's all of your importance because they're an ally of ours. And you think that there's no potential for the idea that
why are all of your examples entirely anecdotal? And they go on for hours. You're going on for hours with anecdotal examples that have nothing to do with the claims you make.
It's not nothing to do with it. I don't know how.
What George W. Bush said about Israel is utterly irrelevant to whether or not dual citizenship causes someone to be less loyal to the country of origin. It's utterly irrelevant.
No, it's about the entire political elite class in America doing things that are for that nation's best interest instead of ours. And George Bush led us to war in how many countries to protect Israel? So I don't, like, how is that not related in your mind in any potential way whatsoever?
It's not related to the claim that dual citizenship causes someone to be less loyal to the country. Which is what I asked you to demonstrate, and you continue to refuse to by bringing up anecdotes instead.
So Congress declared war. Okay, they declared war on Afghanistan. They declared war on Iraq. Largely, actually, it's funny if you look into the Iraq war that the whole weapons of mass destruction nonsense. That's it turns out that was based on misinformation that was spread to our intelligence agencies by the Israeli Mossad themselves. And then our dual citizenship with Israel Congress all declared war on Iraq, Israel's greatest threat at the time. And you just think it's all a coincidence, huh?
Well, first of all, whether it's a coincidence is irrelevant. Take a look at the composition of that Congress.
No, it's everything, dude.
How many of
it?
Stop.
20 years.
You
don't care about all the soldiers who died at war for a foreign nation because of the dual citizenship Congress declared war?
The people of Congress at that time, because of their dual citizenship, voted for the war. How many people in that Congress were Jewish or had Jewish affiliations?
I could pull it up. Honestly, we have historically for the
how
past.
do you hold that position without knowing
and
that?
Many more. We've had more dual citizens, Congress people with Israel than any other nation. That's a fact.
How do you know that that is true if you don't know the composition of the Congress that voted for what you're talking about?
Yeah, because I don't remember the exact number of them that it was, but I know that it was more than any other nation. Okay.
Ballpark it for me.
Probably, I don't know. The last I heard was, let's look it up. It's
because you've heard of it nowhere. You just made it up just now.
Okay, sure. Are you afraid of facts, bro?
No, I mean, if you'd like to actually cite some facts, maybe I'd be afraid of them, but you haven't done so far. It's been anecdotes and gesturing.
Yeah, so it probably between 60 and 80. Right now it's the last number for 2018 I've got here is 89. So
of dual citizenships in Congress to Israel?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's unbelievable.
I'd love for you to send that over.
Yeah,
so
sure.
we can look at that. And in addition to that, let's say we be charitable and say that it's 89%. How do we know?
No, not percent. The absolute number you asked for.
Oh, 89. Okay, fair enough. Okay, let's say 89 out of 535. The vast majority, or at least a simple majority of Congress voted to authorize the war. That means that there was at least 200 more people who voted for the war. Was their justification also dual citizenship?
If you're on the intelligence committees, nobody else is allowed to see what you see. That's the problem everybody has with this Schiff guy, is he was talking about how there's all this evidence about Russia and it never came to be. And he pretended that because he was in his special position that no one else can see, that he knew something everyone didn't. And there was a bunch of action taken because of it. And it turned out not to be true. The same thing. It took place then, and you can look into the stories. The Israeli Mossad spread false information to our intelligence agencies, which then led our intelligence committees in Congress to say the same thing about weapons of mass destruction. The rhetoric made its way all the way through the media and out of the President of the United States' mouth. And then there we go to war.
Oh, yeah, I have a question. Like, if people have a financial interest in another country, just like the way Trump had, he had just financial. He didn't need dual citizenship anywhere, but because of his financial interests, he clearly had loyalties elsewhere. So if people are going to have a dual citizenship, that usually means they have a home or some kind of attachment to that country. So why wouldn't that have like some kind of loyalty towards that?
We can't disallow people from participating in government.
They do it. Excuse me. No. Excuse me. They have no.
I didn't even say anything. I said like 5 words.
I know what you're saying. No, I know exactly what you're saying.
You don't know what I'm saying.
Yes, I do. Shut up.
I promise you that you have no idea.
Yeah. Okay. Then say it. And for fuck's sake, just get it
Brittany,
out.
chill. Brittany, chill.
You are absolutely ridiculous.
No, he doesn't. Mio has been talking 5 minutes at a time. He's been talking like 3 seconds at a time. Give me a break.
I make a point for 5 seconds, and then Mio goes for a rant for 5 minutes.
Say what you're trying to say.
What I'm saying to you is that we cannot disallow people from governmental positions because they might have dual loyalty to other nations, unless you want to establish a standard by which we can apply that universally. But you haven't done that. All you've done is gesture to examples of how this is true in particular.
You just told me that I didn't know what you were going to say, and that's exactly what you said. I knew what you were going to say. So what the fuck? There was
Okay.
nothing else adding to there. You just went on a long ass diatribe for no reason to like add in all this other shit. It doesn't matter. You got to the point. No, you should have just got to the
Sounds
point.
kind of sexist that you thought because you're a woman you didn't understand.
No, because you fucking did this
Okay,
insane
Brittany,
word
okay.
shit to me last night.
What is it that you disagree with?
I'm saying that you can have these that you're going to have these loyalties to other countries, and these guys do not have a right to work for our government. It's a public service. They work for us, so they shouldn't be awarded a lot of the same like freedoms and rights and shit that we have as citizens. They should be held up unto a much higher standard.
Cops are held to a higher standard.
Oh boy. So basically what you're saying is if anyone has if we can prove that someone has any ties to another country,
they shouldn't have financial ties
should
to other
they should
countries.
be disallowed from engaging in our governmental system.
If they have financial ties, even like companies, businesses, any of that shit, and they're writing
Because
laws
that
for
equals a
us.
vested interest.
Wait, but hold on. When we can look at by far, when we can
have family in those other countries, does that count as a conflict? What if they have family who lives in those other countries?
No, I don't think that's. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's like.
Okay, why? They have a vested interest in their
It's not
family's
the
survival.
same as having financial investments in other countries.
but that's a
Right,
conflict of
it's not-
interest.
It's not the same, but it is still a conflict of interest under your definition.
Right.
I mean, it's just there's different degrees of it, right? When these people who are in politics enriching themselves off of like wars in foreign nations, enriching themselves and their families, it's like, yeah, we should be paying attention to what their financial attachments to these foreign nations that it's benefiting are. Should we not? Is that a ridiculous
It's
position?
not ridiculous. It's not, but you can't keep gesturing to the difference without pointing out the distinction. I've asked this now 2 times. If the standard is that having any ties that could compel someone to have a dual loyalty is the standard for removal from politics, then someone having family in Israel or someone having family in Pakistan or places like that, that under your definition could be a justification for their removal from our political systems. Is it the same as economic ties?
So I do take your point there. I just think that at the very least, the financial investments in other countries of our political leadership should be heavily scrutinized, and that these again,
I'm for the scrutinization of political
Same.
donations and economic ties. I'm for the scrutinization, but
Same.
disallowing people based on an arbitrary standard of disloyalty is crazy.
Especially when the majority of people who have dual citizenship don't actually do anything wrong. Like by far the majority don't actually end up doing anything crazy that would. Because
do you think our politicians are all like squeaky clean here?
How about no? Don't say how do you know. You have to tell me that they did do something wrong.
About to say that politicians are just like squeaky clean. They don't do anything wrong.
Okay, as far as we know, there is
Brittany, that's an absurd characterization. If I say that we shouldn't disallow people from running in our government because of disloyalty, and you say, well, you must think all politicians are loyal or all politicians are good, that's an absurd characterization of what Tom said.
No, he's acting like that these guys haven't done it. He just said, okay, that people could do, shit because of that. And Tom's sitting there saying that they haven't done anything like that.
I didn't say no. You can't know.
I'm just rejecting your claim that's been unsupported so far.
Exactly.
By virtue of dual loyalty, that by what is talking normal? What do you mean by that?
Talk like a normal person. Stop trying to debate, bro. It's so unbelievably annoying.
I don't know what you're talking about, Brittany.
No one else knows what you're talking about, Brittany.
Hard. Yes, no, you do this, and it's very, very annoying.
Brittany, he's being very succinct with his words and his point, and then you get mad that he's not being succinct enough. But when he is being succinct, you call him a debate bro.
Seems like he's like laser focusing in on this one issue, and we've been on it for so long.
Because you haven't substantiated anything that you've said.
How many dual citizens are in Congress? That it's like, oh well.
This is where you took the conversation, dude.
Miyo, you're right. No, you both are right. I am hyper focused on this issue because if I let you continue to pivot off to a million different paths, you never stick to a single point.
You took the conversation
is
here.
this point, like, really important to you? Like whether
it's important to you.
It's a good thing that there's dual citizens in Congress.
No, it's important to you.
Okay.
You could drop it. You could say,
like,
okay,
casual,
I
like,
don't
casual
actually.
thing, and you guys
No,
we spent like 44 minutes talking about this now.
no, there is no casual thing. It was his argument, and so we argued against it. If he wants to say,
wait a
okay,
minute,
never
he
mind, that
told you
doesn't matter
exactly
to
how
me.
He said, he's like, yeah, I would argue that they shouldn't be in Congress. He didn't say like
Right.
it was like some like he's dead set on this and this is something he strongly believes. It was just fucking like he said it in bed.
But he's now 3 or 4 arguments deep.
Because you guys have been doing this. You guys have been dragging this on.
No, he's been defending it.
For conflict of interest, and it's like, okay, here, maybe I could solve this here.
If you didn't want to defend, that claim,
in the air, and it's like there could be a conversation to be had about whether having dual citizenship could imply dual loyalty and how heavily that should be scrutinized in our government, or if it should be allowed. But that being said, I don't like it, and to me, it spells a potential for political corruption on the horizon.
Okay,
That's
but all you have to
that's my
say
opinion
is
on that.
I don't have like anything to substantiate that claim. It's just a belief that I hold, and we can move off of it.
Sure. Yeah, let's go with that, because it's like, again, you can look up, there's like Forbes articles about whether dual citizenship could imply dual loyalty in a
This is my biggest problem. If you say you don't think there's any evidence, or you don't think that there's like a good way to prove it, but like you still believe it intuitively, and then you gesture to other people who may have evidence and arguments, it sounds like you're being weaselly. It sounds like you won't actually
who am I
defend it.
gesturing to? No, there's actually examples, historical examples of dual citizenship leading to political corruption in many different nations. Like, that's obviously taken place before. Obviously. Do you deny that's ever led to political corruption ever in all of human history?
Of course not. I deny the fact that you should. I deny the fact.
For political corruption stemming from dual citizenship. That was my whole point, dude. And when I'm saying, I'm not like referencing, well, someone else has a good argument against it. I'm saying that this is a large open debate, a mainstream talking point for lots of people about whether or not this is an issue in politics. So, like, it's not like a fringe thing to even bring up and say that I take personal interest.
I didn't say it was fringe. I said you were wrong. And then when Brittany brought up the point about how she thinks that we should disallow people in government based on certain ties that may be considered to be disloyal or have dual citizenship, I criticized that because she made a bad argument. That's why I focused on it, because she made the case.
There's many people who share that belief, and there's many people who have very good reasons for it that have been all over the national debate stage. And I don't think that she said that like coming prepared to debate this one issue about dual citizenship for 45 minutes when we were in the middle of a whole other
Mio, you guys brought the topic of conversation here, not us, okay? So don't act like we're pressuring you into this. You guys took the conversation here.
The future of how, and again, just so we're all on the same track about how this all took place, Chris said that there is, just because there's 2 or 3 examples of white people handing over political authority to non-whites who have racial grievances against them, ending in genocide for whites, doesn't mean that it always will. And I brought up that, well, Tom said earlier tonight that because the one time that people criticized or even mentioned the disproportionate amount of Jews in power in their country, well, they got into political power and that ended in genocide. So we can't allow anyone to ever talk about that again.
That's not true.
That was my main point.
That was your straw man.
I wanted to talk about.
What I'm saying to you is that the composition of your argument, how the reasons that you gave us for why you believe that was true, was bad. It's a composition division fallacy.
This is what I'm talking about. You try so hard. It's so annoying. I'm sorry.
It's a what? Use real words, man. These $5 words are not working on me.
Composition.
We try so hard. Like, I get it. Like, you're wanting to put on this.
It's a composition. whatever fallacy.
Guys,
God,
guys, you not
Like,
understanding
like,
logic.
okay,
Guys,
okay.
guys, listen, please, 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 listen,
Whatever
listen.
fallacy.
Mio,
I
Mio,
lose the debate.
Mio,
You win.
please listen, please listen.
You got me.
Listen,
I'm blown out.
Mio, I know, Mio, listen,
Talk like a normal person. That's what she
Mio,
means by that.
Mio, listen.
Nobody said
Oh
that
my
ever
goodness,
in my
I
entire
freaking swear,
life
I gotta
until
leave this
this
call.
moment,
I can't do
and
this.
I'm almost 30.
I can't do this. I can't keep doing this. When you keep talking for 5 freaking minutes about literally nothing, I can't
Well, then
keep
tell them to
sitting
talk
here
normal.
saying over. No, you guys not understanding logic in a debate about something that you strongly believe in. The fact that you don't know how to defend it is not an own on him. It's amazing
What
to
do I
me
not
that
know
you
how to
think that's
defend?
an
That
own
there's
on him.
disproportionate Jews in media and government? Talk to Vosh about that. I got it from him, bro.
Oh my goodness, there
He said
are.
it's true.
I have also said that there are a disproportionate amount of Jews in power in the United States. I have
So
also
then
said
what are we
this.
arguing about? That's a composition fallacy, dude.
Oh my goodness,
That's
not
the
it.
point that I was making.
That's not. This
Your,
is.
your laughing is insufferable, Brittany. None of this is
Well,
funny.
Your voice
We
is
all
fucking
agree.
insufferable.
We all. Now that is a composition fallacy if I've ever heard one. So okay, so we all agree that there's a disproportionate amount of Jews in media and government in the United States. It's just Tom thinks that because the one time that people who talked about that got into political power on some other continent 100 years ago, that they genocided Jews for it, that we should not platform or allow anyone to talk about it anymore. However, the fact that 2 or 3 times in history that whites handing over political authority to non-whites that have racial grievances against them, that's ended in genocide against whites. Well, that doesn't mean it's going to happen
This is all
again,
irrelevant.
and so we should just gamble on it. Do you see what I'm bringing up, the contradiction in thought here?
No, this is
It's
all
sort
irrelevant.
of a composition fallacy. I'd say.
Well, so first off, if you want to talk about another fallacy, that's a straw man. I never said that you can't talk about it because something happened 100 years ago. You see how it's crazy how I can literally sum up what you said in 3 seconds while it took you almost 2 minutes to say all of it? Like, that's mind-blowing, isn't it? I never actually said that. I said that like there is a long history of things like that happening, and the Nazis are just one example. But this isn't even about that. This conversation right here, where we're at, is about Rhodesia being compared to the United States, and us saying that we can't allow other people to get into power because we're going to be or because you're afraid that they will then genocide the white people. That's what this conversation is
sure.
about.
Yeah, let's go to that, because I'm pretty sure I heard earlier tonight. You leave the VOD up, we can go back and find a clip. Pretty sure I heard that we shouldn't be platforming people who are so-called JQing, which is talking about disproportionate amount of Jews in power, right? But to leave that point, let's talk about Rhodesia. I mean, again, I think you know my argument. They had a racial grievance against them. As soon as they took political power, they used it to ignore all the rules the whites had put into place when they had power and genocide them. And now you're saying, well, if we make rules to make it so they can't genocide us, then when they have power, they won't genocide us. And it's just not historically correct.
You can't make historical arguments and then copy pasta them over to reality. That's not an argument.
What?
You can't take historical arguments
and say that it's likely to repeat itself.
No, you cannot say that. That's not how you make an argument for something occurring.
Okay, so history doesn't repeat itself. Christian 2021, got it.
You would have to show some sort of trend.
Composition fallacy.
You are specifically wrong on this. No matter how long you spend laughing and complaining about how I speak, you're specifically wrong on this.
You're specifically wrong.
It's like a pretty common thing that history repeats itself. That's like something that's pretty well known, actually. Like
everyone knows. You learned that in history.
No, okay, no. Okay, hold on. So the things in Rhodesia had like tons of different circumstances that led to that conclusion, and then to also say that just because the even if all of the circumstances were the same, you still wouldn't then be able to say, well, this is the same, because you would actually have to see a trend heading in that direction. You don't have either one of those two things.
Okay, so then why is it when I talk about what you, me, and Vosh all recognize is the true fact of disproportionate amount of Jews in media and government in America today, you bring up Nazis and say that, well, that'll lead to that?
Well, because it's not just one example. I said earlier, I don't just say the Nazis is one example of that. Like, we've seen this numerous
times.
But you
bring up history and say that, well, that's likely to repeat itself if we allow people to talk about these things. Didn't you? That's what Nazis are, is like history? And you're saying that it'll repeat itself?
When we're talking about Nazis taking over, that, like, what it is that I'm saying is that they have harmful beliefs that would actually have damages on, like, our country if they became more common. So, like, we can already see it, like, just in the minority of people who hold these beliefs and the radical things that they do in the real world. So, like, it's not, I don't even have to argue about it on a majority level.
Advocating for genocide against Jews at all. I don't hear that all the time, and like
it's not necessary. We could, again, we can
talk about the real facts we all admit than you do. So
it's not necessary.
where
Again,
where are all the Nazis, Tom?
It's not necessary. Again, we can look at a trend and, like, see, like, a growing hatred towards a certain group of people, and then we can also.
Yeah, whites, right?
No, not white people. Like, there is, and I will admit, yes, there are some people who use harmful rhetoric about white people, but they are an insanely small minority.
Say that we should be dealt with yesterday. So when's the last time you heard someone say that about Jews?
We're going back to anecdotes and poor arguments. That's all you can do.
I could tell you anything that's happened, and you'd be like, "Oh, that's an anecdote."
Well, yes, if you're giving a single example.
It happened yesterday. This isn't like,
if you give me an example,
it was just trending on Twitter,
man. If you give me an example, if you give me an example of an individual circumstance, that's an anecdote.
Oh my god.
No, an anecdote is like a personal story that you're recollecting happening, and it's like it can't be confirmed whether it even happened or not, right?
No,
that's not what an anecdote is.
An anecdote is not like, here's a historical fact that this happened in history and it's documented all over the internet and it was trending on Twitter yesterday. I don't think that falls under anecdote. That's like documented history of yesterday.
Oh boy. Okay.
It could be a composition fallacy, though.
Bro, again, you showing that you don't understand logic is not a win for you. I don't know why you keep doing that to yourself. This is not good for you. Like,
who said he didn't understand that we're not doing logic?
Him, when he continuously acts as though somebody bringing up a logical fallacy, he laughs at it and acts like it's stupid.
He didn't. Yeah, it's making fun of the fact that he can't just use normal words to describe his issues.
He overcomplicates really simple sentences just so he can try and sound overly smart. He's overcompensating for something. That's
Brittany. What do you think is complicated?
That's the point of me saying that over and over again.
Brittany,
I don't need to use $5 words to sound smart.
Do you ever stop talking? Brittany, what do you think is overcomplicated about a composition division fallacy?
You're just trying to sound you're trying so hard. It's like,
what is overcomplicated about it? What is overcomplicated about it?
I'm saying you're trying to sound.
Okay, describe a composition division fallacy in your own words, please.
Absolutely. A composition fallacy is when you take these smaller parts of an argument and say that it necessarily applies. You won't even let me explain it.
Go ahead, sorry.
It's when you take a bunch of small parts of an argument and make them apply to the whole picture without any reason. That's all it means.
Yeah. Okay, so why can't
you were doing that? You absolutely
you're taking
were
all
using
these things
smaller
together
arguments.
and you're putting them together without any logical, connection. You couldn't say that. Like, is the entire
That's what a composition division fallacy is.
What a composition division fallacy is? Like, or like, can you just say it like a normal person so that the average layman can understand the conversation?
Well, we also can't say the word anecdote without you getting confused, bro. Like, I don't know what we can or can't say. Like,
okay,
this
so
is...
it's all blurry for me, but read what anecdote is.
Okay, an anecdote is a like a single instance of something happening.
Okay, so if I bring up a second instance of anti-white hatred being spewed by non-white people, then it's no longer an anecdote? Or is that a separate anecdote and they're all just anecdotes no matter how many instances it is?
So it's not no matter how many instances of it is. It's anecdotal evidence so long as you're gesturing to individual examples that have no meaningful connection to each other.
Yeah, but they do have a meaningful connection to each other. The meaningful connection is that there are non-white people all over the United States who are openly advocating for like political violence against white people.
And obviously, Tom and I condemn that.
But what I would look for is some sort of data.
We all are on the same page.
Okay.
That's bad.
So listen, what I would look for though is some sort of data and some sort of trend to show that what you're saying is true for it to not be anecdotal, right? So if you keep bringing up a bunch of little YouTube videos that you saw where somebody said something mean about white people, those would all be anecdotes. But if you can show me like some sort of data that says like, look, hatred towards white people is growing, or like people who feel grievances towards white people is growing, or something like that, then like, yes, then it would no longer be anecdotal.
How are we supposed to show that? Isn't the videos and all this stuff that we're showing you, isn't that the way to show it?
No.
Doesn't that doesn't that represent a trend that there are a growing amount of growing influencers who are all speaking these opinions?
Okay, let me ask you a question. Hold on.
On social media influencers and their rhetoric.
Okay, so if I show you 100 videos of cops killing black people, is this evidence of cops killing black people? Because is that evidence that this is a problem that's growing in the United States?
That's a great example. That's a phenomenal.
It seems like half the country got set on fire because...
Hold on, I don't care, Mio. Answer the question. I don't freaking care, Mio. I don't care. Answer the question. Answer the question. If I show you 100 videos of a black person getting killed by the cops, is this an example of a
larger problem?
Yes, of police brutality growing in America towards black people.
Not an example of a larger problem.
Okay, true. Exactly. Yes, that is true. Because these videos can be spanned over like 100 years, and me pulling up one per year doesn't actually prove anything. I would actually have to show that there's data showing that this is a...
Still, you growing up being over 20 at least, me being over 20, Chris being over 20, I think then, and is it like Brittany being over 20, we've all seen these, we've all grown up sort of in the same world, and I think we can all recognize that the number of influencers and their following who have this kind of dangerous anti-white rhetoric going on has grown over the past several years.
Okay, it's like you can't just appeal to all of us agreeing.
The specific example I brought up isn't like, conclusive evidence of that. However, deep down, we all know it's true that there wasn't as much 10 years ago.
If I was sitting in a room full of 4 other lefties and I said, can we all just agree that police brutality is increasing? And then we said, because we all just know it deep down is true, you'd laugh at them and call them stupid. And you'd be right, because they would be stupid. That's not evidence.
Okay, but I'm not... See, the thing is, this is what she means by, like, being a normal person. We all know that the amount of anti-white rhetoric in America that's coming from politicians, that's coming from media outlets, that's coming from the social media influencers, and the number of people who are believing it is growing. And like, if I have to come and do a debate and bring like the some sort of charts and evidence, and we'll do peer-reviewed studies and get into the meta-analysis and the P number and the credentials of the scientists that did the studies and the credentials of the scientists that did the meta-analysis. If you want to do all of that sometime, I guess we can do that.
You could give us
maybe being normal people, we could all like agree on what we all know is happening and real. But I can understand why you wouldn't want to even admit that anti-white rhetoric is happening, because it that acknowledgement wouldn't be good for the arguments that you want to make.
Okay, I could engage with all of that garbage, or you could just give a single poll.
I didn't jump on to talk shit to Tom tonight, provided or equipped with
right.
like.
No, this is like your entire thing, though, dude. No.
Hanging out with my friends before I jumped on.
If the evidence is overwhelming, it should not be that hard to find it.
This is your whole thing, Miyo. This is everything for you. Like, everything that you ever claim, it depends on this right here. You should have some evidence somewhere, dude. Somewhere, anywhere. You should have it literally in your freaking wallet, framed.
I have it all. Like, it's just like, back in my, I don't know, camera roll and shit like that. I'll pull something up. We'll get there.
Okay.
Let's see. Of course, I look up anti-white rhetoric increasing, and like one of the first thing that comes up is the ADL saying white supremacist anti-immigrant rhetoric increasing. That's funny.
It's anecdotal and also not funny.
It's what just happened just now. You can't be like, that's an anecdote when, like, I'm just laughing at I'm looking at on the page in front of me right now. Like, it's not an anecdote. It's just me talking.
Miyo,
Miyo actually is an anecdote.
Miyo, that.
God, you're so weird. What is wrong with you? Seriously, it's so fucking weird.
Hey, guess what? Guess what, Chris?
Did you actually want me to guess, or is it rhetorical?
And I saw my wallet and keys next to me. That's an anecdote, isn't it? Oh, wait, I'm about to drink a sip from my water real quick. Anecdotally. And you know what? Both of these things were probably placed here by me in the past. But that's a composition division fallacy, isn't it, bro?
It's not.
I'm taking two unrelated things, and I'm making this overarching idea that combining them, which is like doesn't logically follow necessarily, right?
Wow. He kind of almost learned something today. That was close.
Except for that it's not the same thing, but sure.
Yeah, that was actually close. I'm impressed.
Thanks, man. I'm having a good time with it. Hit me with another one, Christian. We're doing logical fallacies today.
Aren't you looking up some information right now?
There's no polls, Tom.
Well, no, it's just like when you type it into Google.
I was really hoping for the polls.
Hate crimes increase. Anti-immigrant rhetoric from white supremacists increasing. You get, Yeah,
I don't think the New York Times is really focusing on the anti-white rhetoric. They can't even post. They can't write things like that.
I've got the stuff out there. I'm just like, I don't have it right in front of me, and I'm like.
Well, what about hold on, what about crimes? Like, what about anti-white hate crimes? Like, isn't that like something that we can...
These are the hardest things to be able to prove. You're asking about hate crimes, and that's one of the hardest things to prove. That's why, like, when you go to a court, they usually don't charge that because they're worried that if they do charge for that, they won't get a conviction because it's just really hard to prove.
Where did you get that from?
I'm actually like 90% sure. I mean, this is an anecdote, but I'm 90% sure that there's way more black on white hate crimes than white on black hate crimes by rate.
Okay, where did you get that from, Brittany? The courtroom thing.
It's just, oh God, we're not doing this. It's
That's
something
anecdotal.
like,
You know, you
it's something that you
keep
hear
making
like
you keep making
tons of
claims that you
lawyers.
can't support.
You hear this all the time. Lawyers talking about that. Like you hear it constantly when they're talking about like hate crimes.
No,
over
no,
and
no, no,
over
no,
again.
no. I hear all the time. I was watching CNN yesterday, and they said like 100 times that nobody has ever hated a white person in the history of the world, and I hear it all the time. I hear it all the time.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get back to you with the study because I'm not going to get this in a timely manner. All that I'm seeing is the New York Post, more white supremacist propaganda showing up on U.S. campuses is like...
I will be holding my breath.
It's because the studies in the polls don't exist.
Again, even just crime rates.
Race theory, which is inherently anti-white, being taught at all levels of the United States institutions. Does that count as anti-white rhetoric?
I could put
or do we need studies about that?
Bunch of links like that. This was really easy to find. Why hate crimes are so hard to prove. This was like, I mean, Washington Post, friggin' instantly. But yeah, we'll just start putting them in.
Hate crimes in general are hard to prove.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, I dropped it in the.
I think Tom's point is that white versus black, there isn't much of a difference in how hard it is to prove.
Yeah.
I'm saying hate crimes in general are incredibly difficult to prove.
That's not Tom's point.
So how are you supposed to constantly prove
that
there's going to be some kind of hate crimes that going on?
Yes, I agree with that. The way you said it the first time made it sound like you were saying it's hard to prove anti-white hate crimes. But I agree, yes, hate crimes are hard to prove.
So you're asking for studies on things that like even like lawyers are going to struggle to prove. All you have to do is see the rhetoric going on. That's the way you're going to be proving it.
Well, I mean, if I look up like how,
really?
Yeah, of course.
If I look up hate crime statistics from the U.S. Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Jamie, pull up FBI crime table 43B, please.
This is so non-serious. It's not even fun anymore.
Oh my God! Talk normal.
That's the real table.
Well, this is kind of the point though. Is like every time like we get into a conversation with people about these sorts of things, it devolves into memes and jokes because once they realize like, oh crap, none of my views actually,
it's so weird.
None of my views actually have anything to back them up. I need to just start memeing and joking away.
Point, which is what about the critical race theory being constantly like pushed nowadays? It obviously wasn't. Nobody even heard the term like 5-10 years ago at all. Now everybody knows what it is. It's clearly like anti-white in nature, and it's like being taught at all levels of American institutions. It's being taught in the military. It's being taught in Lockheed Martin. It's being taught in the government, in the executive department. It's being taught like in like all of our major corporations. It's being pushed by the media. It's being taught in K-12 schools all across the nation. And so it's like that represents a trend, right? Or are those all anecdotes too? Or is it a composition division fallacy because they're all individual examples that don't point to a larger trend logically without a study that has a chart for us to recognize?
No, so it's neither a trend nor anecdotal, but it would be something to engage with. But this is like a complete pivot from like the actual conversation. Like
not exactly, because all I said is that anti-white rhetoric is very prevalent in America, and it's increasing. That was the original claim. The original claim wasn't that I have a visual example of a chart.
The problem, no, it's not a chart. It's not a chart thing. We'd have to go through each of those individual examples.
Yeah, this like getting into CRT is a whole other freaking animal.
I know off the top of my head those examples, and there are many, many more. And like here, I'll drop them. I'll link them in chat. Lockheed.
Oh, you'd have to give it to me, and then I guess I would have
to.
Yeah,
you can't link it in chat.
Lockheed Martin. Here's the New York Post. Lockheed Martin had white male privilege training.
Where'd you put it? Okay, okay, I got it.
Okay, so there's that one. Let's what other examples did I bring up? The military.
So you would say that the vast majority, or at least not even the vast, the plurality of the military is being taught that.
You know, it's the amount of it being taught in the military is increasing as a trend was the original point.
Okay, is that trend from like 0.01% to 0.02%, or what is it?
Oh my God, what is wrong with this guy? Seriously.
No, I don't think so at all. Like, I've got buddies in the military who are going through this, and it's like, it seems like it's pretty prevalent.
Now, come on. Now, that was obviously anecdotal, saying that you've got buddies in the military.
Right, now, that is anecdotal, but I am pulling up, like, a link for you on that. So that's just, like, off the top of my head what I had. I'm trying to find links that you'll trust because the first things that come up are obviously like Breitbart and The Blaze and Fox News. So I'm trying to work with you here. What's your take on the Federalist? You hate them? You prefer the
Federalist
Washington
is good.
Times?
Federalist is good.
All right.
And even Fox News is fine. Breitbart, not so much.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to try with that one. Okay, there's the Federalist. Here's the Washington Times. Army lectured soldiers on the dangers of white privilege.
Yeah, that's good too. Washington.
Didn't used to happen, but...
Wait, this Lockheed Martin example has 13 of the top executives participating in a 3-day caucus. What does that tell us about Lockheed Martin's broader policies for their employees?
It's the executives, dude. It's like that's all. Everything goes downstream. They make the policies for the entire company. That's what executives are.
Right, but what is the 13 executives going through a pro-diversity training have to do with, like, what specifically are they putting in place in their company to like encourage this outside of this like one seminar?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, we can go into that, but it's like this is.
Well, let's go into it then.
What
exactly
for no reason, right? It's like, even let's say it's
I didn't
a good
say what's
thing
happening for no reason. I'm just asking you what you think the reason is.
From the executives being trained in diversity training, right? Like if you're for all of that, it's like it's happening for a reason. There's supposed to be something that follows from it, isn't there? Otherwise, there would be no reason for the executives to be trained in it.
What actions did the executives take afterwards for their employees that would make this widespread a problem like you say it is in Lockheed Martin?
Sure. Let's go into that.
Just real quick, I did find the hate crime statistics, and by far the anti-white hate crime statistics are much, much, much lower, even just by hard numbers, than against Jewish people and against black people. The hard numbers are even lower, not even just proportionate, but like anti-white in 2019 was 775, anti-black was 2,391, anti-Jewish 1,032. So like it is.
Okay, but that's not by rate, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
A way larger amount of the population than blacks and Jews. Jews are what, 2% of the population?
Exactly. So the number would be bigger. Exactly.
This Washington Times example is garbage too. This was shown to 400 soldiers at Fort Gordon in April 2015, and there is 1.5 million members of the U.S. Army.
Oh, okay. I mean, there's still. I could show you. I could pull up more examples of it.
In general,
wait, every single example that you give me is crap. And then
military white male privilege training, military diversity training, military critical race theory, and there's examples everywhere. The very first link, I could screenshot it for you. That is the first link that came up when I looked it up. So like it is happening all over the place. It's just that was literally the first link that came up.
Okay, but you sent over the links because you thought it proved your point. It doesn't do that.
No, I sent over links because you asked for specific examples of like each of the things that I mentioned taking place, and it's like I could blow you up with dozens of links.
And you said the trend was increasing, but this one, like for the military, was in 2015. It was for,
I mean, honestly, I didn't even look at it.
It was for 400 servicemen and women, and despite that,
You're
right?
asking for freaking studies, like right on the in the moment, and he's just pulling stuff up. Like now you're expecting him to.
You expect me to have already read that article? Like, I'm just googling things. I'm like, here's one article, here's another thing. Now let's move to the other example I brought up.
Mio, if it is as big of a deal as you say it is, then it shouldn't be that difficult to find large seminars that are given to a large amount of soldiers
He's not reading
regularly.
through all this shit. He's giving you fucking links.
I'm sure I could provide you with many stuff happening. So like I'm not fazed by that. The very first link that pulled up when I googled white male privilege training was just one thing about one battalion of soldiers. It's like I'm sure that there are. I mean, I know. I'm looking at it right now.
You keep talking about this body of examples, but the two that you give, maybe there's more. Maybe there is better ones than the ones that you didn't even bother to read. But in these two examples,
I didn't bother to read. It's like I'm not going to sit here, make everybody. There's people watching this right now, dude. I'm not going to make them all wait for 20 minutes while I read an article and then send it to you, and then you read the article for 20 minutes, and it's like.
Then you shouldn't make claims you can't readily support.
Oh my God. What is wrong with him? I can't.
These are trends that are obviously happening. It's obvious. It's like if you're denying
not obvious.
That
it's not obvious.
Critical race theory training at every level of American institutions is taking place, no one watching this is taking you seriously. Because it's all over the news. It's like
no, it's not, Neo. You're making it up.
Now. And more than that, it's not just alarmists on my side talking about it. It's people on your side talking about it, saying that this trend is a good thing.
Even if it was the case that even if every single person who's watching this thought that I was talking complete garbage, you'd still be wrong. So appealing to the audience does nothing.
I'm not wrong just because the very first link that came up, which I just read the title of and sent off to you, is about a battalion of 400 people. It's like
most studies are in small freaking groups anyways. That's what studies are.
That's why metadata is so important.
Oh God, I can't let this guy. What is wrong with him?
Guys, seriously, again, please listen, guys, again, like seriously, when over and over you guys are the ones who are making these claims, but you think it's ridiculous that people want you to justify your claims, like this is mind-blowing that you guys think that that's ridiculous, that someone would want you to justify the insane claims that you're making.
You can't. I mean, it's like you cannot admit that it's like you've been living under a rock or something. You haven't seen the news in 5 damn years.
No, you've been living under a rock where you haven't thought to question the bull crap that's been fed to you, and then you just like
eyes, Tom.
No, you can't. No, you cannot. No, you cannot. You are making that up.
You're telling me there's no anti-white rhetoric. Is that what you're going to tell me?
That's not what I said.
We're not saying there's not any. We're saying it's not increasing at the rates that you're describing.
You act like it's a big problem.
What rate do you think I said it's happening at?
You said that it's increasing.
Sure. So you don't think it's increasing?
I don't think you've demonstrated that.
Okay, but no, I didn't ask you if I demonstrated it. Do you think that anti-white rhetoric in America is increasing or not?
Yes, no, without evidence. Yes, without evidence, we would not believe that.
So you think we probably have equal to or less than the amount of anti-white in America than 20 years ago?
Unless you give me a reason why I should believe that's true, I'm not going to believe it's true because you tell me that I should.
You're absolutely right about him not being a normal person.
So annoying.
Literally, you guys just keep repeating things over and over.
Because you're trying to deny things that I know you know are real.
No,
just because you're trying to debate bro us into shit.
And it's you
can keep calling it debate broing people, but you just don't know anything about what it is that you're talking about. That is the bottom line.
All you need are your eyes.
You are just making it up. No, you're making it up.
Acting like our eyes are not real.
If that was true, you would have readily
You're asking us for fucking goddamn studies and all this shit. Like, all you need to do is see what's happening.
You guys have talked about this 1,000 times. You should have studies at your tips of your fingers.
The problem is,
I don't see it.
The problem is, Tom, is we made the fatal error of actually needing evidence for the claim.
Oh my goodness,
okay,
what were we thinking? We're debate broing them.
Our eyes isn't good evidence, you guys. That's fucked. Oh no.
We shouldn't have debate broed them.
Well,
your eyes are different from our eyes.
It's not that your issue is needing
your personal experience is meaningless to me.
It's not that your issue is needing evidence for claims, dude. It's that, like, you need evidence for every claim.
Every claim that's ridiculous, yes.
A single conversation progress past basic stuff, the basic points that everyone knows about. Like, if
it was so basic, you'd be able to find studies or something.
If Ben Shapiro debated one of the top lefty, one of your favorite guys about critical race theory, they wouldn't start by denying that it's even increasing or real until he demonstrated it with polls, dude. They would just get to the damn conversation.
You're definitely incorrect about that. They would definitely deny that.
Oh my god, this is dude. Exactly like what you guys fucking do, and this is what happens constantly. And this is what we talk about when we're saying debate broing. You're just holding up a conversation.
And honestly,
there
it's good
is
for
no
me.
conversation.
I know you think that I got him, guys. Like, I'm literally picturing the soy jack in my mind right now. I can see it in my mind.
Okay, all right. Hold on. Let's continue. No. Hold on. Let's continue the conversation. You're right. Okay, so I see on the news all the time that white crime is decreasing and everybody loves white people more and more. Let's continue from there. Go ahead. I see it all the time. You see it all the time too. You see it all the time, and I see it all the time, that white love is increasing.
Then tell me you don't see any anti-white rhetoric. Tell us that.
I never said that.
Are you going to honestly tell us that you do not see it? Please.
I never said that.
Just fucking have a goddamn honest conversation for once.
I never said that. I never said that. To say that I see it sometimes does not mean that it's increasing or that it's a huge problem. Those are insane conflations that I'm amazed that you don't know that there's a difference between the two.
No, it's look, here's why this is good for me, okay? Everyone watching this, besides the people that are already completely in your corner,
had to qualify.
They can tell that you're denying this because you know what happens when you admit that the truth, which they already know, that it's real. And so by virtue of the fact that you're being this dishonest about it, you're driving people like Brittany to people like me.
Okay, people like Brittany don't know how to think for themselves. They let other people think for them.
With you guys so much is it's winning people over to my side.
And that's fine. Those types of people don't know how to think for themselves. They let other people think for them. So she will let you convince her of things without evidence and without any proof. I go look up things myself. I go find studies. I go find polls. I go find evidence of it myself. I don't just say over and over, well, I've seen it before with my eyes, therefore it must be a huge problem. I saw somebody the other day wearing a t-shirt with a banana on it. This is a huge problem. People are wearing shirts with bananas on them. Everybody knows this. Everybody has seen it.
Okay, Tom, I literally hear this stuff on our own side too. I've been a lefty for a very long time, and I hear the way the lefties talk, and I've been that way with the white guilt and just having
in no meaningful way are you a lefty.
Shut the fuck up for 2 seconds, all right? I can't hear your voice anymore. It gives me the fucking creeps.
I'm going to continue to talk despite you not liking it.
Okay, so Brittany. What? You had white guilt and you heard it on the left side, and what else?
I'm saying that I know this stuff is happening. So when I start to go into these little scenarios of what can happen later, I already know this stuff because I'm seeing it.
Okay.
And I've been through it.
So,
and I fucking...
I understand, but I grew up the only white kid in an entire neighborhood. Everybody was black. I went to an all-black school where me and my brothers and sisters were the only white kids there. And I went to a church where me and my family were the only white people there. If that was my experience and I applied this to the rest of the world, I was the only white person in the entire world but that's not the rest of the world. I eventually moved to Georgia, where by far the white people were the majority. If I only look at my own experiences and think that that applies to everything else, I'm going to be so clueless as to how the world actually is.
So you're telling me you lived in a diverse utopia and
don't call it diverse. Don't call it diverse. It was not diverse. It was not diverse. It was pretty much all black people. It was not diverse.
Well, that's what diversity means, is all black people.
No, it does not. Shut up.
It means fewer white people, really.
No, it does not.
Yeah, that's what it seems to mean to most.
Yes, because you don't actually look at things from a broader lens. You look at things from a very microscopic, narrow view, and you don't allow anything else in.
Well, I mean, I see what's happening in the world after stuff. And again, I'll send you a bunch of materials and you can go over all of my materials on the stream. I'll come on and talk about it sometime, but it's like I didn't jump on today just after doing homework, prepared with a full sheet and binder full of evidence, right?
Yes, and I would be happy to look at it, truly. Like, if this was actually a problem, I would seriously be worried about it. Like, I would think that this is something we need to do something about.
We'll have a Red Pill Tom stream, and I would be happy to go through all of that with you. But again, like I've said before, given that lefties see it happening and they engage in these conversations, I've watched them. I watched some of these panels where they talk about what to do about the white people problem, and they talk about that there's too many white people and the amount of whiteness going on is sickening, and all of that, and like it's I see all of that stuff happening, and so do a lot of the lefties and a lot of people in the middle, and they're scared about it, and they don't like that that's happening unless they're completely brainwashed at this point.
And I've seen Discord calls of people saying really gross things about Jews.
It's about white straight men, and people freaking sitting there tweeting about how they're happy that white men are starting to lose control and lose power and losing the majority, and all these white. And I used to fucking say those things too, actually. And
many such cases.
And so this is not like a crazy thing.
Again, we're not denying that. We're not denying that.
Yes, you are.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
No,
we're not.
We're denying that your personal experience is representative of the rest of the world.
We're denying that this is growing. That we're denying that this is some huge problem. That it is accelerating at a quick rate. We're denying, we're not denying that there are people who say these things. We're not even denying that there's a lot of people that say these things. We're saying that
the more stories we're hearing about it, like when we weren't hearing about it quite that much, that means it's not growing.
Here's how Chris doesn't understand what's happening.
The article, Miyo, stop. I want to say, stop. In 2015, that article that you sent about the army, Miyo, stop.
That your
I was halfway through a sentence, Miyo.
Is reminiscent or showing reality.
Stop.
He can't hear us when he's talking.
You're saying that to the audience, which that's their reality too, and they see that that's gaslighting. They see that you're lying and not telling the truth, and they're more likely to listen to what I have to say after.
I'm sorry, but you guys already admitted.
You can keep lying all you want about it, and
no,
they're going to go watch a debate
you already
of a
admitted
famous
this.
and a famous lefty, and they're going to debate critical race theory. And guess what? They're not going to start by denying that it's real.
This is so stupid. You already admitted that if I showed you 100 videos of a black person getting killed by a cop, that this would not be evidence of a growing problem. So you've already admitted that everything that you're saying to us is not evidence of anything. You've already admitted this. So you can't keep saying.
I could show you quotes by even I think top military officials saying that the amount of military diversity and critical race theory training is increasing. And
okay,
so it's
no, hold on. Stop.
Anybody else
Freaking crap, dude.
Here.
This is driving me crazy. We would have to agree that critical race theory is anti-white, and that's the conversation that's a whole new animal to get into, which is why I keep telling you to stop going to the critical race theory stuff, is because that is a whole other conversation that I'm happy to have, but it is 7:45 a.m. here, and
it's been a
so
long
I don't want to
conversation.
get into critical
Hey, I
race theory.
appreciate
I
you
do.
engaging, man. I
Yes.
thought that you'd be too scared.
One
To be
second.
honest.
1 second.
We did
keep talking over Christian, so I want to give him a chance to say what he was going to say.
Thank God, though.
I'm lost. I don't care.
Okay, sorry. I
Big surprise there.
the point is, overall, we're happy to look at these things if there is evidence, and I would hope that if I make claims that you guys would want evidence of it as well, that I can't just start saying, well, you've seen this before, therefore it is a growing problem. Even if you see it more and more, that doesn't mean that in general across the United States this is actually a growing problem. So I'm happy to look at it, do the research, find the polls, bring them back to me, and then we'll get into it.
Here's the good news, Tom. The good news is, although I know that Chris is lying because he knows what I'm saying is true, I know that you are a generally honest guy who tries to interpret reality in the most accurate and logical ways that you can. And so the good news is that I will collect all of my favorite red pills and information for you, and you can do a either debunking Miyo's red pills stream or a getting red pilled by Mio stream, and you'll see what I have. Gather all the relevant materials that I have to, and I will do the research. I'll read the articles before I'm just blasting them off live on stream. It doesn't make good content for me to be reading articles for 20 minutes.
Okay,
but
real quick.
Do the homework and the research, provide you with the information that's caused me to believe what I believe. Yeah. I realize now that you haven't seen the things that I've seen, and that's why you don't believe it yet. And you know what? You're not the first person I've encountered, even on the internet, on these debates, who hadn't seen the things that I've seen.
Okay. Okay. Listen, just remember, and I really need you to write this down to make sure that this is it, because I am willing to schedule something with you now to make sure that you actually come back to this, but I will put freaking $200 on it that when you come back, you will be trying to convince me of something else other than that the white hate is actually a growing problem and that there's studies and statistics behind it.
Excuse me, anti-white rhetoric.
Even anti-white rhetoric, anti-white hate crimes, anti-white sentiments, in general, this is what we're talking about. And when you come back, you will come back with something completely different and want to convince me of that instead, because you'll realize that there is no evidence of this.
$200 from you, I won't hold you to that. But no, this is a claim. I am happy to make this your first red pill, and then we'll schedule more in the future after you accept that this is all real, and we can talk about why it's happening, who's behind it, and you're gonna learn all sorts of things, man. I'm really excited for you, bro.
All right.
You're not the first person that I've had these conversations with, I'll have you know.
Okay. I don't believe that.
Thanks for having me on, man. It's always good to be in a place where Zanya can't mute, and so I just had to sort of take the opportunity to be on a Tom stream and allowed to talk for once, but
congratulations,
it feels good.
buddy.
I'm not gonna lie. So thanks for putting up with me, man, for real. It's been a good time. Christian, always great having conversations with you, man. as eventful as they be, I'm just a cheery guy, and I'm just happy to be here.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
A man of many words, as always. You gotta love it.
All right, I'm heading out.
So thanks for
jumping in, Christian.
I'll sign off now. I'll let you guys do your thing. Everybody smash the like button, hit subscribe, ring the bell. Tom Foolery Show, don't forget it. This guy's got great content all over the place. All right, Mio's out. Have a good one.
Bye. Okay. Goodbye.
All right, later, Brittany. I appreciate you jumping in, Christian. That was actually very
it's
helpful.
a regrettable decision, but we do what we can, I guess.
Yeah, no, I really do appreciate it. Actually,
I hate that this was the first time that we had to talk to each other.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. Normally, I most of the people I meet are on in streaming is under some odd circumstances, but hey.
Hey, well, thanks for the invitation, and I'm happy to come on any other time that I'm available and you want me. So
Cool, appreciate it, man. Actually, I think I'm doing panels again soon. If you're interested in doing those, I'm banned on Twitch, so like people can't really stream them, but like, you know, they're still a lot of fun.
Yeah, you know, I'd consider it. I usually try to stay away from more than, you know, a couple people. It tends to become dumpster fiery, but maybe depending on how it's moderated and stuff.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, ChristianJWatkins on YouTube and Twitch if y'all want to find me. But I'm gonna head off for the night because it's super early in the morning. So.
All right, we'll put your link in chat. Appreciate it, man. Have a good night.
Alrighty, appreciate it.